Now we straight chillin', serial killing, clean cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another blood-hungry episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 314, recorded on Sunday, April 11th, 2021. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the first Patreon pick of the second quarter of the year. This one was chosen by Jim G. Baby. The movie is Blood Diner. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from the Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randy Gandy G-Landy. What's up, man?
Hey! What's going on, boys? How's it going?
Hey, duty. It's good to see you.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm just, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty lucky this week to be coming to the table with both my life and genitals intact. So,
are you
feeling
ready?
Good about it.
Are you ready to worship Sheetar?
I mean, Sheetar already knows I'm coming for her. It's happening.
Close cousin of Reptar, no doubt. Sheetar?
I assumed, like the whole time I heard that throughout this movie, I was thinking of like somebody mispronouncing guitar.
Even
that's
better.
all I could think about, which somehow makes it funnier.
It's the 80s, you know, makes sense.
Guitar, Sheetar. I mean, that's the trifecta I want in my life.
Last but not least, calling in from Jacksonville, Florida, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, bitch? Your boy Sheetar Stains. All I could hear was keytar. I was a keytar man myself.
Guitar, Sheetar. Yeah, and I can hear the Reptar thing too. That
Yeah,
it really does sound very much like, if you disassociate it from that, it sounds very much like a word that would have been used in like a 60s Jack Kirby comic book where they were clearly just making noises and putting them down. Like,
somebody else was saying they thought it sounded like shitter, but somebody's saying shitter very funny, like Sheetar
with an accent. The Sheetar.
Yeah, I mean that is very much in line with what I think this movie is going for. So you're probably right about.
Oh, Sheetar. I'm gonna talk all about Sheetar today in Lumeria.
Man, we're already kind of getting there, so let's tidy up here.
Yep. Before we get into it, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. So we had something strange happen recently. We had a tie on one of our poll picks, so we had to post a tiebreaker over on our Patreon website. We do finally have a winner for the month of April.
Oh.
The theme for April was Frights of Spring, and we had a tie between Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man did finally win from 1973, the original. The original Wicker Man.
Yeet.
Hell yeet, hell skeet, hell feet.
And all the mangs did rejoice.
So we're going to be talking about The Wicker Man from 1973 very shortly. Regarding the May poll pick, which is still currently posted on our Patreon website. So if you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this May. The theme for May is alternative aliens, and the three movies you can vote between are Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Mac and Me, and Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Bob,
Sup?
this was your pick. First, tell me how the numbers are looking, and tell me why these are the films you chose.
All right. Alien movies are a thing that are a staple amongst like science fiction, of course, but also amongst the horror crowd.
Don't tell that to that lady on Twitter.
I never would.
Did you guys hear about that? Yeah, we talked about it in the Slack, right?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that is so prescient.
And you woke us up with it. Is that what you're
Hashtag
talking about?
woke us up.
Oh no,
Rob's
that
here to
lady
set
who
the record
said
straight.
Alien
No.
is not a horror movie. I got you.
That's an
Never mind.
entirely
That's
different
totally-
bag of tricks.
a
No, yeah, that lady's like, I don't think that horror can exist in a space movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, despite the obvious counterexamples, you're wrong.
She disproves herself, but this is neither here nor there.
Ooh, yeah.
So this was sort of like my takeover month as far as the poll pick is concerned. I wanted to talk about alien movies, but not in the normal sense where you're talking about like, alien, predator, signs, what have you. I wanted like some weird, funky aliens. So yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Mac and Me, Rocky Horror Picture Show. As of right now, Killer Clowns is winning, Rocky Horror is in second place, and Mac and Me barely has any votes.
And just to clarify, I want everyone, maybe you're listening for the first time. Bob could have chosen anything he wanted.
True.
Any choices, any theme, just complete takeover month. And Bob picked Mac and Me as one of his choices.
I don't want to hear it from either of you, Mr. Ghost. All right, take that shit home.
I didn't pick Ghost. One of our
No,
listeners.
but you advocated. You made that happen.
Because
You
I thought it was
campaigned on a
hilarious.
Ghost platform.
That shit was hilarious, and I am proud of that decision I made.
Well,
Okay, great. Then you don't get to complain now.
true. Also, we're not going to talk about Mac and Me, obviously, because people aren't voting for it. And that's fine.
Well, Bob, don't test the listeners now.
That's-
Don't test them.
Oh
That's
my
fine.
God!
I-
Let the counter campaign begin.
I chose these three movies because
Voter
I feel
fraud.
like, regardless of the winner, it will yield a very solid discussion. For one way or another, I think that's going to happen.
Personally, I'm pulling for the clowns. I don't usually pick sides, but that sounds pretty appealing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Many times we have considered picking like clowns as the theme just so this movie could be showed like,
work
an
it in.
option. An option. Yeah.
But make sure you get your votes in before the end of the month, and we'll see what we're going to be talking about this May. That's all we got as far as Patreon. Juice, do you have any other YouTube news?
Yeah, last week was a Top 5 Tuesday, and there was a little bit of a problem, but it all got worked out. So I chose kind of last minute to do a swerve and did Top 5 Godzilla movies to celebrate kind of the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie coming out that we talked about last week. And it went up, and Toho said, no, sir. It wasn't just sometimes, I'll get like copyright claims and it's like, you can't monetize this or something. It's like, okay, but this legit was like, no, nobody can see this. And I was like, God damn it. So I had to do some tweaks and put it up again, and it still got contested. And
we're going to get erected.
We are.
I fought back. I fought the man, the Toho man.
You fought the Mang.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And
You fought the kaiju
Mang.
the video's a little rougher than it normally would be just because of some of the stuff I had to cut out, but it is up and visible. So take that, Toho.
Soju versus Kong. Wait a minute.
Yeah. So this ended up being my top 5 Godzilla films, and that is up on our YouTube page. That's YouTube. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I want to commend you on all the videos you make for our YouTube page because they are great. But this one did particularly upset me because Godzilla 98 was not featured in your top 5.
Bob.
Why? What's
Bob's
wrong?
favorite. Bob fought hard for me to include 98 Godzilla so that it would be
my God.
represented, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. with
Just
a
watch
clear-
the producers, man. God, there's other Broderick sources in the world.
Yeah, but that's the best one.
I didn't even include the film where Godzilla fights Zilla. I didn't even include that one that we talked about last week. But nonetheless, there is a new
Big
top
Jawzilla.
5 Tuesday app at youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. That is all. Actually, that's not all. Sorry. If you support us at the $10 level, you get exclusive content on Patreon. Sorry, the $10 level on Patreon. That's the hashtag hard.
Not on your OnlyFans.
Yeah.
That's exclusive content too, but we don't talk about that.
Ex-juice content.
Ex-juice content. Ooh, I like that.
That's too good branding. for this
Ex-juice gonna
joke.
give it to you.
Rip, pour one out. Pour one
Actually,
out.
he's not dead yet. Apparently, he's on like life support.
What?
Yeah. So
No, I think he passed after
No,
that.
he
didn't
really
he?
did.
No.
No?
I saw today, unless it just happened the past 2 to 3 hours. Apparently, he's still on life support. I don't know. Pouring out for your boy DMX. He's not doing very well, which is a bummer.
Okay, that's sketchy. But okay. Either way, it's not sad. What
We're
was I
fake
talking
newsing it
about?
out of here, boys. I don't know.
Oh, if you support us at the $10 level on Patreon.
Now pay us for our hard-hitting journalistic efforts.
We have some exclusive content heading your way. I'll talk about it more on what you've been watching, but I finished True Detective 3 finally, and decided to do a mini cast on that while it was fresh on the brain. So that should be dropping for you sometime this week. That is all my housekeeping.
Tight. Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled. That'll be on Patreon in the next couple days for sure.
Peel your eyes.
Peel them like scrimp. Yeah, sounds like our houses are collectively clean.
This house is clean.
Now it's time to get in the main event. We're talking about Blood Diner, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Blood Diner from 1987. This was directed by Jackie Kong from The Being fame.
The Being! We have covered 2 of this woman's 4 films somehow.
Both chosen by G-Baby. So shouts outs to G-Baby yet again.
Around here, that means big money.
Okay.
Big money. And we are certainly getting erected.
Well.
We'll see. This was written by Michael Saunier, starring Rick Burks, Carl Crew, Roger Dower, some other folks. Plot synopsis is as follows. Grab a table at the Blood Diner! A cut above the rest. The Nam Tut brothers run the most popular restaurant in town. Popular, that is. If you're the county coroner, the head chef has a real human touch with this special recipe, a killer lineup of delicacies made from human flesh. One of the most insane and over-the-top horror comedies ever made, Blood Diner is presented here fully uncut, restored from original vault materials, and features a buffet of tasty, new, supplemental features you'll just die for.
Wow, that's very specific to a box.
Bob, yeah, you
Containing a
have this
disc.
box, and I've been told it cost approximately $25. So
Is that U.S.?
That's unfortunate.
That's
Those are U.S.
Canadian.
dollars? Oh my God.
So yeah, this is out there on Blu-ray. You can pick it up from Vestron. It's pretty easy to come by. If you want to get it with the slipcover, you're probably paying closer to like $30 to $40 for it now. If you want it without the slipcover, it's probably more like $15 to $20.
And Bob does have the slip cover.
I
God
do.
knows he's got the slip.
Bob loves to get the slip.
Always got to get the slip. Also, it's like streaming. It's easy to find elsewhere. Like if you don't want to pick it up physically.
Actually, it was advertised on 2 streaming services that it didn't end up. It like wasn't.
Yeah,
on.
man.
That was fucked up.
Shudder does that a lot, I've noticed,
Yeah.
which is kind of a shame. Like I've had that happen more than once where I'll search, okay, where's the streaming? And it'll say Shudder, play now, and then it'll make me log in, and then it just won't be available.
Me too. Yeah, fucking Shudder. I'm calling their asses
It's a
out.
fucking bait and switch.
Several places said like Shudder, and even Shudder had a like when I googled it, like Blood Diner streaming, it said like Blood Diner Shudder. It was like a direct link from Shudder.
I think that what happens is they like just like hide or don't make it available like to find on their website when it's not available to watch.
They had
so that
it.
when you search for they
So
had
when it
it,
goes
and then they
away-
like not unpublished it.
Yeah,
but they they delisted it from like the searches, so you can't get to it. But if you
Yeah.
search for it on Google, you can still get to it. That's my supposition.
Yeah.
That is frustrating. But also, if you just buy the fucking Blu-ray, then it's no problem.
We love you, Shudder.
I
Be
just
better.
went to my dark source. Actually, I had a harder time finding it. I had to go to my dark.
It's on
sources
Roku
to get
channel
it.
for freeze.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
G-Baby threw that out there. Roku for free. Also, like, you can rent it for a few bucks, but if that's against your code and you want to steal it like Justin, you can do that too. You got options.
Man's got a code.
Anyways,
It is to steal.
Yeah, Blood Diner from 1987. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so I have definitely heard of this movie. I have seen it for sale on like Amazon and all those places as a specialty release for some time, and I really like the cover of it, like just on a pure like visual basis. I thought the aesthetic of it was really cool, and it looked like a schlocky 80s horror, so that's what I was expecting. And I actually thought that I had already seen this movie until I started watching it this week. I must have confused it with something else of that nature from that era, because this is way more self-aware than what I was expecting to get. And what I had watched before, I honestly can't remember what it was now. It's going to drive me nuts, but it was also set in a diner situation. So no, I hadn't seen it. Recommend? Probably not. I'm having a hard. I mean, there's a very specific sub niche of people that will find this to be in their wheelhouse, and I think those people are probably already bought the disc with the slip. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Not a hard recommend for me.
All right, Juice. What about you?
No. Nope. I can't think of anyone I would recommend to watch this film. Bob, you poor unfortunate soul.
You unpoured son of a bitch.
I am forcing myself to drink so I can get through this cast because
you poor sad.
I know.
Sad.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. We know how hard it is for you to drink. We all know how difficult it is for you to drink.
The man named
your
after
name being
a liquor.
soju.
Yeah. In order to make
Stains
this
thereof.
interesting, I had to drink myself into a
well,
stupor.
Jesus. I mean, Jesus, it's one thing to hate the movie, but we fucking talk every week. You think we could have a fucking conversation, man? Come on. Stick
Bob,
with us.
Why did you buy this? How many times have you seen it, and why? God, why? Tell me.
To God, why?
Yeah, I'd seen this probably twice prior to this viewing. It's probably like my third time watching it. Yeah. I bought the disc just because Vestron was coming back, and I was excited generally for the label to make a return. And this was, I believe, their second release. Yeah, it's number 2. Yeah, they number their releases. This was the second disc they put out. I was excited for them to come back, and I'd never seen Blood Diner previously, so I picked it up and watched it. And it's a full-blown exploitation movie. Like, it is a B movie. It knows what it is, and it leans into it. And it's one of those things, like, you dig it or you don't. And if you don't, there's no argument for it. Like, there really isn't. It just is what it is. However, generally speaking, some of it doesn't age well, but overall, I enjoy it and would recommend it generally.
A general recommend to general audiences.
Yeah.
This movie is rated G, according to Rob.
It is unrated.
Anyone could watch this and enjoy it, says Bob.
Bring the kids.
No.
You just said general audiences.
I said I generally would recommend it, not
We
to
extrapolated your point, though, Rob, okay?
I would recommend it to
We can
those
read between the
who
lines.
would be interested in exploitation films. That's my general recommendation. If you don't like exploitation, you're not going to like this movie. That's it. So yeah, if you saw The Bing and you thought that was bad, don't watch this movie. Don't do it.
Some of us thought that movie was really good.
Some of us did. By some of us,
4 stars.
it was me. That was me. I'm here for Jim G, baby. I'm showing up for my boy. Yes, that's not a very solid recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. Pretty lukewarm in general.
Less than that.
Lukewarm is very generous of you.
Yeah, I'd say it's cold, and one of us is trying to breathe their hot breath onto it to warm it up.
Just,
Got some hot breath.
just burning everything in sight to try and heat this fucker up.
Let me breathe on you. Let me. So yeah, that's enough of that. We're gonna go and drop that spoiler warning, and we're getting into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
So I would personally like to say that before we start, and I know you got your plot synopsis, I'm sure, Bob.
I do.
But before we start this, I gotta say I love G-Baby.
Yeah,
I love him.
We
as
do.
Much
We
as
all do.
A
We
man
all do.
can love another man without sexual
Let the
intention.
sandwiching begin.
false.
Yeah.
With sexual penetration. That's how
Okay.
you love
Oh,
the G-Babe.
Well, you're speaking for yourself. But
Whatever.
so I just want to say, G-Baby, this is in no way personal.
True.
I love you. But I'm just
We
gonna
know
shit
that.
all over this movie today. So. I hope that doesn't hurt you down to your core of your soul.
Kind of becoming your brand.
Maybe.
Yep. Yep. You scorn G-Baby down to his gooch.
Actually, yeah, G-Baby's picked a lot of movies that I don't like.
True. This
might be the worst.
dude, worse than the Frighteners?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
we'll get into it.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, we'll get into it. I've got a bit of a synopsis. I'll blast through real quick, and then we'll hash this out. Okay, so the movie opens up. We got brothers Michael and George Tutman. They're being given a book and a pair of ancient Lumerian amulets by their uncle Anwar. He tells them to study the book and to learn about the goddess Sheetar. He then runs outside the house quickly and gets gunned down by the police because he just murdered the high school glee club. We then jump 20 years into the future, where Michael and George are now adults, and they own their own diner. They resurrect their uncle's brain and use his knowledge to prepare a cannibalistic feast to summon the ancient goddess Sheetar. They also have to assemble a body for her to inhabit, comprised of several body parts from many immoral girls. The boys successfully resurrect the goddess Sheetar, but the detectives that are looking into the string of murders committed by Michael and George stop the boys from feeding Sheetar the virginal sacrifice she requires. Instead, the detectives end up feeding Michael's head to Sheetar, and the movie then ends with Sheetar riding off in a convertible with her next victim. Blood Diner. There we are. Gentlemen, start your engines.
They're started, buddy. Trust me.
Okay.
I'll be stroking.
They're slowly dying.
So I want to start out by saying this. I take immediately to have taken issue with something Rob said earlier, which is that if you don't find anything that you like in this movie, that you can't defend it. I would argue that that's my position, that I don't particularly like this movie, but I definitely like it more than Justin by the sound of things. I definitely see how somebody could enjoy this movie. I think it's got a fuck ton that's wrong with it, both like on a moral spectrum and on a technical spectrum. But the main thing for me is that this movie comes down to being a comedy first, it seems like to me.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I don't think the jokes are funny really at all. And that's the kind of downside. Like, I can watch schlocky movies and I can enjoy them and I can laugh at them and I have a good time. Like, I'm thinking of like sleepaway camps, things like that. Some of my favorite movies are fit in that realm.
Yeah, we were
The
wondering
difference
where
here-
you were going to land on this, to be honest.
Well, it really comes down to the intentionality of it, because I love, like, say, Sleepaway Camp, which is, to me, and I know we've had a discussion about this before, but to me, it's unintentional comedy, and it makes me laugh very, very hard. And then you've got things like Wet Hot American Summer, which is very intentional comedy, which makes me laugh very, very hard. This movie kind of doesn't quite get either right. It's neither totally intentional in its comedic effect, like you're not laughing at the things you're supposed to laugh at, if you're laughing at all. But you can tell that they're winking and nodding at the camera. This has like spoof energy where, you know, shit happens to support the joke rather than the plot. And that's what happens in like Wet Hot American Summer. And I love that. But then it also like has just really shitty like editing or terrible overdubbing. That's not a joke. It just sucks. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at generally.
This movie's full-blown comedy, and the jokes land or they don't, for sure. But like, it's not trying to be anything other than a comedy.
No, it knows what it's trying to be, but I don't think it's totally succeeding at being what it's trying to be, because the jokes, like, it's very subjective comedy. But I would argue that a majority of people, certainly in today's standards of like decency and shit, are gonna balk at this movie's comedic efforts. Maybe
Yeah,
that's presumptive
see,
of me,
sure.
but that's how I feel about it.
See, this is something that's kind of coming to me a little bit now, so it's not fully formed in my ideas, but we started watching this again because Bob was having a really hard time, mainly kind of the intentions of this director. So while I see the idea, like the definitive statement that this is a comedy first. And yet, Bob, one of the reasons we started watching it again before we did this cast is because Bob had watched an interview and I didn't realize that it was the same woman who did The Being and that the woman or that the director was a woman.
Jackie Kong.
And yet, yes, if anything, based on Bob's talking about this interview that came out, it seems like her main intention is to shock, is to make this exploitative film that kind of stands up or like kind of holds up to other exploitation films, like, you know, like I Can Do It Better or Just as Good. And if anything, knowing that knowledge, it's almost like the comedy is used to make the pill go down easier, and yet it's not. To me, if anything, it makes the pill more bitter.
Well, I think that like it's pretty common. Like I don't know if you can cleanly separate, you know, exploitation movies from comedy either. I think those things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Primarily, I think that you'd find more movies that are more exploitation movies that lean into the comedy than you would find movies that don't.
Yeah,
Or exploitation movies that don't.
Yeah, I guess it just seems like the first and foremost like intention of this film actually does seem to shock. So like I guess separating those intentions, like okay, maybe they go.
Yeah, I won't separate them
That's
entirely.
the point of an exploitation film. What I was really wrestling with here is like on the Vestron disc, they have like an hour-long or so documentary, and maybe 20 minutes of that is a nice interview with Jackie Kong, whom historically does not give interviews. She doesn't like to do that. But in the beginning of this interview, she specifically states like she wanted to clear the air here because I guess like she's so off the radar that certain people watch her movies and think that she is a male director because the name Jackie could be male, female, you know, whatever. So she's talking about this movie and like wants to claim it as her own and wants to do so very clearly as a female director. So she puts that out there. And she adds to that that she's proud of being a female director working in exploitation cinema, which, you know, obviously is a bit of a boys' club being a director at all, especially in exploitation cinema. And she like takes certain pride in the fact that she was able to like outdo the fellas in exploitation as well. Like this movie is it pulls no punches, so to speak. Like it's gory, it's bloody, it's got the nudity, it makes no apologies for itself in and of the fact that like the MPAA gave her a list of scenes that they expected her to cut before they were going to give it an R rating, and she refused to do so, and Vestron backed her, so they released the movie as unrated, which is very ballsy and probably is the reason why it took several years for it to gain like a cult status and for anybody to really see it or talk about it. So I was wrestling with the fact that this movie has the problems that it does, plot-wise and joke-wise. And of course, this movie's like 34 years old, so it is made in a different time, so take it with a grain of salt if that's something you're willing to do. But also, it's like this woman who's very much like a feminist director and like went to great lengths when she was directing, and still to this day to like put females in power. Like her whole like the back line of this movie was like all females. Like she hired females specifically to raise them up in the movie making business because like it's a bit of a boys' club, and it still is today. So I don't know. I was just sort of grappling with the fact that like you got this feminist director, and also there's like a nude aerobics thing in this movie, and like how to make sense of all this, I'm not quite sure. But it's an interesting thing to talk about.
That's unusual. Yeah, I see. The thing is, like, I'm interested in that too, and that all sounds very like somewhat high-minded in some way, but the results don't really speak to that in my mind. Like, you can set out, like, if your goal is to set out to make the most shocking thing in the world, you being a woman isn't necessarily, it's a nice it's a nice asterisk for your title if you manage to succeed. But it doesn't necessarily make it doesn't make what you're succeeding at any more palatable or any more enjoyable to me. So like if your comedy isn't strong, I'm still not going to enjoy it. It doesn't really matter what your intentionality was behind it. I respect that you had an intentionality and it wasn't just throwing shit against a wall. If that is indeed true, then that's fine. Like you got what you wanted out of this. And for your perspective, I can see being satisfied with the product. I wasn't satisfied as a viewer. Really.
Well, and I would also argue too, because before I knew that this was a female director, my impression was this is a very misogynistic film. And I know it's from a different time. And Bob brought that up, and I've thought about it since he brought it up, which hasn't been that long, a couple hours. But I still think this is a misogynistic film, and just because just because a woman directed it, I guess the intention of saying like, I want to make this type of movie that's typically directed, by men, and yet one of the kind of tropes of or like stereotypes of those kinds of movies is that they're misogynistic. So just because you're a female coming into the ring, like, you could have done different. You could have made a movie that maybe was exploitative in some way and wasn't as misogynistic, but you didn't. If anything, to me, it's like, well, like, I don't know. Like, I still see this as a misogynistic film just because she's a female director and hired like all female staff. Like, she didn't do anything new within this genre. If anything, she was trying to like amp up what was already there, which is generally very misogynistic.
There's a certain aspect of like minority groups sort of like seizing and like realizing certain things in like taking them back as their own. So like if there is females are being exploited in exploitation films, a female director might want to step up and do the same to sort of like take control of it and say, well, like, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and take ownership of it. Not necessarily because like it's what they want to do, but it's like empowering to them to do. I
understand that, like, to break into that realm, you have to get a foothold, and I understand that. But I don't see that happening here.
Neither do I.
I see agree. It's like if if there was a big art movement, like visual arts movement, where everybody, and I know that this has happened before on some level, but there's not been a movement, as far as I know, in painting in human shit. If you just paint only in human shit, that's the whole thing. And it's like it's got a following, and people pay money for it. And somebody is being kept out of that realm. Say women are being kept out of that realm. They're being gate kept away. Yeah, I can see like the desire to be like, well, we need to break this open so that everybody can do this. But at the same time, the end product is still you painting with shit. Unless you do something to counterbalance the shit in it, the actual shit, then it's still going to end up being the same product at best. Your best case scenario is that you're mimicking something that is shit. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, I respect the idea of trying to break through, and like, to that effect, I'm very happy with this, and that's one of the things I respected about The Being. But this is not like, I don't think this is doing a ton of favors, at least with general audiences of people watching this movie, for women. It might be doing some favors behind the scenes for people in the industry, which is great, but it's not really like breaking ground for people watching this. The people watching this are still watching it, like, theoretically, the people that they're making this for like misogynistic shit and are enjoying that aspect of it. So does it actually help in the long run, or does it hurt? That's a debate to be had. And to me, it's just from a pure entertainment standpoint, it doesn't grace me with enough goodwill to erase some of the shit that I did not like about this movie.
Yeah, and it's too, like, I guess that's the thing. If I hadn't had any background knowledge, there's nothing about this film that would have made me say, you know what, this is an exploitation film, but I could tell it's made by a woman. And there's nothing particularly different about it. So another thing that's like fucked up about this movie is there's like a lot of Nazis in it. And I don't think there's like a lot of Nazis in an intention to like support
trumpet playing Nazis.
Support Nazism. cannibalism, but it's kind of like the same kind of aspect. It's like, okay, there were Nazis and they did terrible things. And it's like, well, there were women Nazis too. So, you know, women are empowered through the Nazi movement. It's like, no, it's like when you are standing on a platform, and in this case, I'm talking about like the making and of exploitation films. Just because you are of a minority group that can be exploited by the general audience of that like support group doesn't mean that you doing it makes it any better.
Right. It's like think about blaxploitation movies and Shaft. Like Shaft wasn't a great movie to people purely because of its action oriented nature. It had a point of view that empowered black people in a format that was at the time not necessarily geared towards that. So you know what I mean? Like it was, I don't know the production history of that movie, so I may be speaking out of my ass in that regard, but these big blaxploitation movies that, you know, I'm told were important for black people at the time to, you know, see themselves represented as people making and being the stars of productions like that, like Dolomite and all that shit. Like there's something valuable to that, but I don't see any empowering going on in the text of this movie. I just see mimicry done as big as possible, which, you know, if that's what you want to do, you know, I guess mission achieved, you know, mission accomplished, but it doesn't do anything for me as an audience member any more than it would be if a man wrote this movie and did this movie. And it doesn't actually change my opinion about anything except for good for Jackie Kong for, you know, making the production team, you know, or like bringing more people into the back end of things. I respect that. And that's great, but it doesn't do anything for the actual enjoyment of the film.
I will say, knowing the history and context of this movie adds a lot to my enjoyment of this movie, which not everybody's going to know. Most people won't know.
I'm curious, like,
most people will never know this movie exists.
Tell me,
True.
I am curious. Like, tell me, like, one aspect of knowing the history and like how it's tied into the film. Give me some specific points. What general enjoyment did you get from like knowing the history and how it translated into watching the film again?
Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit into trivia.
Yeah, that's fine, because there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. Okay, so one of the producers of this movie like owned the rights to the entire Herschel Gordon Lewis vault. It's like every movie that he made, including Blood Feast. So this was originally supposed to be Blood Feast 2. That's what
that makes sense.
Yeah, this was written as Blood Feast 2, and as the production started, I guess one of the money dudes decided like Blood Feast didn't have like the name recognition that would really like warrant making a Blood Feast 2. So like, okay, we're gonna make our own exploitation movie. We're just gonna call it Blood Diner, whatever. So really, in like spirit, it's Blood Feast 2 though. So knowing that intrigues me as well. Also knowing that like Jackie Kong just came off like a hit in the 80s. Night Patrol was the movie that she directed previously to Blood Diner. Like chose this movie, like wanted specifically to make movies with Vestron. She wanted to make exploitation film and like chose to hire women to support this movie is interesting because it's an interesting choice for a woman to make. I don't know why she made it. I can't speak for her. But I find these movies entertaining and generally interesting, and I find it even more interesting that a female would want to work in that space because it seems so unkind to women. I think the lack of my understanding is what makes it really fucking intriguing to me. Like I want to understand, but I'm coming short a little bit, I think.
That makes sense. I mean, what you just said about Blood Feast, this being like originally penned as a sequel to Blood Feast, that actually goes a long way to sort of not really validating, but explaining what this movie is to me.
Yeah.
Because instead of just having this wackadoo fucking semi-plot that they veer from wildly, this is a spoof then. This is literally a spoof of the first Blood Feast in some ways.
Totally. Yeah.
Because it's taking all of the basic plot elements, the cannibalism, tricking people, a virgin to sacrifice, all that shit that they do in Blood Feast, and they're making jokes around it, jokes that don't conform to reality or even the shared reality of the film. Like a dude's head gets ran over at one point in this movie and people laugh, and then he's shown later on with a giant fucking bandage that goes like 7 feet in the air on his head.
Is that guy?
I thought so. Maybe I was wrong, but that's what I read it as.
We just thought it
yes.
was something complete because we pointed that guy out too.
We thought it was like a fucking toilet paper turban, like
Yeah.
the worst low budget
who
turban
knows?
you could ever find in your life. And it's
I think that was the bouncer who got fucked up by the
that is
the-
so
the
much
hydraulic
more funny.
car.
That is hilarious.
I don't know how you would know that because you never really see that guy's face, like, but for a second.
I'll say I
love
had
that
to.
scene,
I definitely
though.
had to piece it together myself. Like it was
Okay.
not. I wouldn't say it was telegraphed well. If that is indeed even true, maybe I'm
Oh,
way
man.
off. But that's how I read it.
Either way, it's funny. I like it. I like it.
It's a funny. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely more funny than fucking Turban. I don't know what that's about. But
Well, I mean, that's the thing with this movie, though. There's no.
yeah.
I guess if anything, you could say there's no group that goes untouched in a lot of ways. I mean, this movie, it makes jokes about like vegetarians, and it makes jokes about gay people. There's Nazis in this. Women are exploited. Certainly minorities, like Middle Eastern minorities.
Yeah.
I mean, just the list kind of goes on. And some things that I didn't initially pick up on in the first, it was hard for me to really focus on this. We watched it again, unfortunately. Oh my Lord. And
Wow,
You're
well,
welcome.
I'm surprised by that.
yeah, it's it wasn't any better the second time, I'll tell you that. But I don't know. I just had a lot of problems with this.
Let me get a little bit more into like
Okay.
the history,
Sure.
if you don't mind. This movie like features a hell of a soundtrack, in my opinion. Anyways, it's got a lot of like doo-wop bangers. One of the things that Jackie Kong was able to do was she secured the rights to like an entire catalog of doo-wop songs for like $100, which is unheard of. So that supplied the soundtrack. Whether or not you're down for that or not is a matter of opinion, I guess. I thought the soundtrack was pretty cool for this movie. She also hired like a bunch of like punk rock bands. So like this movie had like basically no budget. So she like hired a bunch of extras that were like in the LA scene and just like hanging out at clubs. A lot of them played music in punk rock bands, including Rick Burke, who plays Michael Tutman in this movie. He was like the lead singer of a punk rock band. So like a lot of the people that were in this movie, it was the first time they've ever been in a movie. So there's just like 3 or 4 weeks of rehearsals before shooting this movie, and like no time for anybody to like ad lib or change anything. Like when they hit production, it was like they were going like start to finish going. Like we got one shot to get everything and like everybody fucking get down to business. No muss, no fuss. So like I respect the hell out of that.
Can I? You know, I wasn't going to do this until trivia, but I'm going to read something that I found on IMDb, totally by accident, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
It's just like I think it's the top most helpful review or something on here, and I have no idea the legitimacy of this. It could very well be somebody just spoofing, just fucking around, but it has an air of credibility, especially based on what you just said, Rob. So this is a review written, a 5 out of 10 review written on IMDb. It says, I played a zombie in Blood Diner, and believe me when I tell you it was such a bizarre and sickening experience that I plan to devote an entire chapter to that nightmare on my memoirs. I have worked on a lot of films, and I mean a lot, and I can say with all confidence that the depravity of the project, inhuman working conditions, and incompetence of the production have been unequaled and will be fresh in my mind if I die of Alzheimer's disease at the age of 300. So many people walked off the set in the middle of production that they ended up hiring homeless people and crackheads off the streets of Hollywood to fill in the ranks. They probably even gave some of them lines. Half the female cast were literally called into casting on the basis of spreads in Jugs magazine. The writer, who later became a good friend of mine before I knew he had written this thing, had played Mengele in Surf Nazis Must Die, one of my favorite and most depraved of all trauma films. Still going. Jimmy Maslin, the producer, has a reputation as one of the cheapest and most thoughtless cokehead producers in Hollywood. He forgot to feed the zombies on so many occasions that to keep the rest of us from walking off one day, he ran to the store and bought some generic white bread and bologna from which we made our own sandwiches. And don't get me started on Jackie Kong. The Dragon Lady, as she was known to all who worked for her, will have a special mention in the book. Suffice to say that she once spent 6 hours on a 2-minute dialogue scene while her zombies were sitting around in cheap gel makeup, which had completely melted off our faces by the time we got around to our scenes. All that said, it's actually a pretty funny movie. I don't think the actors realized it was going to be, though. I don't think the actors realized it was going to be, though. In fact, I don't think anybody did but the zombies, who were all wasted on weed and club margaritas the whole time.
Damn. Yep.
Pretty revealing, if true.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think that's like the thing too. We were kind of like researching her background and stuff. It seems like she grew up like around LA, and like if she like knows these like scene, it's just like, I don't know. Just because she's a woman, I don't think gives her just kind of like this blank check. This movie, to me, the impression that I got from it was garbage. I thought it was garbage. I didn't think the jokes were well acted. The audio is terrible.
We've talked a lot about like our impression of the movie and the history of the movie. Let's
we
talk
should
about
get specific,
the actual movie.
Okay.
Like, so you did not like it. You didn't think it was funny. Like, what wasn't funny about it? What did you dislike? Like, what bothered you about
So,
the
one, just from the audio standpoint, this movie sounds terrible. It was interesting that you said, like, you mentioned the actual songs in this, but we have to mention this entire movie is overdubbed. Now, this is an American production, and every line of dialogue is overdubbed, and it looks and sounds terrible to me. Like, it was like just blatantly distracting. Yeah. And so the sound design is terrible. There was one scene when we watched it for the second time that I specifically mentioned. I was like, hey, when I was watching this by myself, this one scene gave me a handful of chuckles, which is more than I could say for most of the film, which is the one where the guy hits the biker on the side of the road and then goes back and forth and kind of like drives over him. That legit was like the one scene where I got a few chuckles. No single like joke landed for me. The only other
no joke landed.
The only other thing, which it wasn't necessarily because of the joke, it's just I swear to God, I've seen it before, was where the dude's head gets like bounced on by the car. Like, I swear I've seen that before, and I don't know where.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, like I was like, is that a meme or like a popular? I don't know. I feel like I've seen.
Oh, you mean
before.
the actual footage that specific?
Yeah,
footage?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've seen that
done in movies before. I can't think of an example, but
okay, well, maybe that was it. So I didn't find the comedy, like that guy's eyes getting knocked out of his head, the brain talking, the dummies. Like, I couldn't understand why they would even waste money on some of this. It really did, like, that, what Randy read as far as, like, maybe somebody's experience, I'm willing to buy it because everything I watch from this movie screams like that's probably true. Like, why would you, like, on such a slim budget, why would you waste so much money to make a dummy of the, like, grave guy security that looks like complete shit, that didn't make a funny joke to me, literally for nothing? They just like toss it away. I don't know. It seems like a ton of drug-driven poor choices.
I mean, yeah, I also take whatever Randy just read off of IMDb with a grain of salt, because the zombie also ends that rant by saying the zombies were fucked up the entire time. Like, okay,
yeah.
It doesn't sound like that.
But here's the thing: that doesn't. And here's the thing, like, one, I mean, there's a number of ways to look at this. So one, you can look at it as, you know, she's from the scene, she's trying to make an exploitation movie. She's not trying to make high art or whatever. If it shocks, that's her number one goal, it sounds like. The comedy is in there for sure, and it's coming secondary to her, but it seems like it's coming through like way more to me as a viewer. I don't see like that as being like if you're somebody trying to make movies, like, you know, have a good time with it. Like, if that's your goal, then like that's fine. But it sounds like she had more intention than that. It just didn't come through, and that kind of sucks. And as far as, you know, I take that guy with a grain of salt too, just because, you know, the zombies weren't even in every scene. Like, I don't know how many scenes are actually like this guy was actually involved with, if he's even real. Yeah.
Just so the last sequence has zombies. That's it.
But like the comedy in this movie, I agree. It just doesn't, like, the intentional comedy for the most part doesn't work. I will say that the manic crazy brother is definitely the funniest part of this movie to me, because he goes so fucking unapologetically big that it's impossible for me to not get a few chuckles. That wasn't the only time I chuckled, but I did chuckle at that scene.
You're talking about the blonde one?
The blonde guy who can barely string the wrestler. They can barely string words together. And he's just like, he presses ham in this fucking movie and has a burger thrown on his ass, and it's stupid as shit, but he's like insane and it's insanely coked out, and I think on some level that works. It's just nothing else hangs on around that, and it's not the most vital part of the movie by any means. So it just, I don't know, it doesn't. I'm struggling between the idea of like, it's an exploitation movie. What do you expect? This is what she's going for. So why would she give more of a shit about craft than the standard exploitation movie person? And the other side of that, which is, but those movies suck for that reason. And so does this. So it's like, just because you make intentional shit, does that make it more palatable in some way? I think it makes more respectful, maybe. Yeah. But if on top of that, this guy is true and he's saying that they treated them terribly, then I think that pretty much seals the deal for me saying, fuck this.
I mean, I can't speak to like life on set. I don't know. Based on that one experience, it sounds terrible. And if that's the case, that fucking sucks, man. I do, as far as like the intentions of the filmmaker, it seems like they're very clear, very apparent. And as far as I can tell, she achieved what she was out to achieve. Like, the comedy for me lands. Like, whether or not you think it's funny is totally up to you. But like, having your head put in a deep fryer, and like, I
thought that was kind of funny, actually.
The one dude like projectile vomiting, and like their competitor down the street having like a dummy. He's like a ventriloquist and he speaks for the dummy. Like, it is lowbrow humor. But like, I'm down for watching a car smash a dude's head. Like,
is that a spoof of Magic or something? Like, I feel like if this is a spoof movie, which is what I'm taking it as a response to like Blood Feast specifically, like, not every spoof movie like takes things from other movies piecemeal, like the fucking Remember the Spartans or whatever, like those.
Oh Lord,
like any of those horrible things. But things like Airplane, they don't really veer off track that often. You know what I mean? So I guess to me, it's like maybe they'll borrow this or that. Like Robin Hood Men in Tights has a 20th Century Fox joke, and it's a fox. You know what I mean? So maybe it's something that we're just not privy to because we're not from that culture. And I'm thinking the immediate thing that came to mind was maybe it's a play on Magic. I've never seen it, but it's like about a ventriloquist dummy and his owner, and they have back and forths. But it's too oblique for me, as culturally removed from it as I am. And even if it was, I don't know that provided that many laughs on its face, unless the dialogue itself was specifically subverting things from those movies, which I have very high doubts it did.
I don't know specifically, but I think like this brand of humor lands or it doesn't. Like, you don't even really have to know like what it's referencing, if it's referencing anything at all. Like, it lands or it doesn't.
Right. That's true. Because like Wet Hot American Summer, like most people have never seen Sleepaway Camp. Most people like nowadays had not seen like Meatballs or whatever else they were drawing from for that movie. And not all their jokes are specifically geared towards that, but all the looks are, and we can all laugh at that. Like, it's clearly funny that that's happening, or it's not to you. But like, I think those jokes are good as opposed to what's in this movie, which they're not. They're not good jokes. Yeah. They don't make sense. There's no punchline that makes sense unless it's at the expense of somebody for being gay or a woman or some shit like that, which to me isn't funny in 2021.
It's not, and I completely agree with you. And that's so like I struggle a lot with this movie. I like it generally speaking. I think a lot of the comedy that's like less offensive, like just a random dude's head being crushed by a car, like that shit's funny to me. It's lowbrow, but it's funny and enjoyable in a like midnight movie kind of way. It's like this is sort of like a perfect midnight movie for me, if it weren't for some of the stuff that didn't age poorly, which definitely exists in this movie. I'm not saying it doesn't. But also, like, I know that like this is exactly what the filmmaker wanted to be, and she's very much like a feminist and was and is trying to uphold like women working in Hollywood, and I'm down for that. And like, obviously, like, should she make this movie today, 35 years after she made it originally, I'm sure it would be different. So it's like, take it with a grain of salt, but not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody should have to do that. It just kind of is what it is, you know, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But overall, I think it's
no movie is. I mean,
totally. Overall, like I dig it for like a midnight movie, though. I think it scratches.
I think there are some funny parts of this movie, but for the most part, the intentionality runs dry for me. That blonde dude had a few chuckles for me. The lady coming out of the fryer with just like a fucking hush puppy head, that was kind of funny.
Giant
and the guy getting his head crushed and people laughing about it. I didn't notice the earrings.
Yeah, she still
but
got
those things got a chuckle for me. They were not belly laughs; they were chuckles. But let's be clear. What I thought was funny about it, I give them credit for being funny for what they're supposed to be funny for.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Sure,
I know.
Sure.
I feel
Not
a
hilarious.
little. I'm not gonna lie. Even when I was like watching this and I was thinking about talking about it, I was like, God, feel like I'm just gonna like have my pinky out. Bourgeois stains over here, but really,
bourgeois.
But a lot. Yeah, I even brought it up before we watched it our second time because Rob dropped the knowledge of this being a female director and stuff, and I kind of want to separate that a little bit. But this is kind of the final note I want to take on that. Is when he said that, literally, like the first thought that popped up into my mind was Humanoids from the Deep, where we also talked about that movie, and I was pleasantly surprised by that movie, where it's not like an exploitation film, but it was schlocky, like it was.
That is full blown exploitation.
Okay. So let's take that as like a similar kind of reference then. I respected the hell out of that woman director and that movie in general because of the craft. I watched that movie not really knowing that was directed by a woman and thought like, man, I almost see like a brilliant movie here just on the craft of this, what you're able to pull off. And only later was I found out like, you know, that fucking what's his name, Roger Corman, like forced her to shoot all these like extra nude scenes and stuff like that. So literally just like from the craft of this movie, the craft of Blood Diner, I think it's just shit. There's nothing here to me that says that this elevates it in any way, that it's better than any other exploitation film out there, that it's different. I really just think the craft is poor here, almost in every realm. There's not a realm of like of this film, like cinematography or lighting or acting or writing or sound design, that I would say is even decent at any point. Not to me. Like, I didn't find almost any value in any aspect of this film. So it's not just the stupid jokes. It's not just, you know, like the Yabos flying. It's literally like the sound is wretched. The writing is bad. The acting is terrible. Like I could go down the line and it's just all bad to me.
Most of the intentional parts just fall apart for me. Rob, you got something to say?
Yeah, I just disagree a lot.
Oh,
a whole
my
lot.
God.
Like,
what aspects of the filmmaking process in this are at least decent to you?
I'm not gonna rave about the acting here because a lot of the actors are literally just people hired off the street, as we have discussed. But the main actors are like acting in a way that is appropriate to the movie, like appropriate to the plot. Like it's supposed to be this elevated slapstick comedy, and that's what it is, and that's what they're delivering, and I think it's appropriate. I also think like the way the camera moves and like the way the scenes are set up like is pretty fucking good actually for like as low budget as a movie as this is. Like I really like this is loaded with extras. Like it's not just 3 or 4 actors and that's it. Like there are dozens and dozens of people in this movie, which, you know, whether or not they're hired off the street or not is its own thing, but like
We're treated well.
Yeah, or treated well, which I hope they were. But you know,
I do too.
It's something that speaks to a movie that has a much higher budget than this movie actually did. Also, like the soundtrack, I think is phenomenal. Obviously, they must have had some sort of issue recording the audio, like the dialogue, because they went back and like literally overdubbed the whole movie, which you only do if the audio is fucked. So somebody messed up there. I don't know how or why or what. But generally speaking, I think like other than that, the film looks fine and the film sounds fine. Like my biggest complaint is definitely the dialogue.
I want to take one note because you've mentioned it several times. And So you mentioned like the soundtrack and the doo-wop scenes.
Yeah.
And like I can just understand the general concept of like hearing a song and thinking like I like this song or I like the sound of this song. But this is an 80s film, and anytime we hear those doo-wop, like one specifically I pointed out the second time we were watching it, they're in a club. And so it's like hearing...
That was like a Motown thing.
It's like hearing a hip-hop song in like Les Mis or something. Just because the song itself is good and has a good feeling doesn't mean it's appropriate for what's happening in the movie. And I didn't feel that it was appropriate for what was happening in the movie. They were in an 80s style
When
club.
they're in a club, they're not playing doo-wop. It's punk. It's a punk rock song.
Not that
No,
one.
no. There is one scene.
Yeah, where they find the
It's like
trashy
Motown-y.
women
I don't know
that
if
he
it's
ultimately
doo-wop.
batters.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess it's closer to it.
I'm talking about the very, very end.
Yeah, so at
No.
least the very end, like the punk rock,
That is punk,
what
for
I
sure.
was seeing and what I was hearing at least matched up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is a punk rock club. I'm seeing a punk, or like I'm listening to a punk rock song. Like that, at least the doo-wop song being played in an 80s style club was nonsensical to me. I was like, what is this?
Well, that's true, and it doesn't really hang together. I liked the doo-wop choices exactly for the reasons you're saying, which is that I like the sound of it. I like Motown music. I like doo-wop. I like some of that stuff.
Also,
I get a thrill out of
diner, which is like a 50s motif.
Yeah, exactly. And they also start the movie in the 60s, and that's part of the whole thing, or at least that seems like what it was intended to be part of the thing, is that these are kids of the 60s, so it's bringing in some like what would then be considered nostalgia for youth.
Yeah.
And I can understand that intention or that idea, and just bringing that shit in the same way that I could see like having making a movie today that's like low budget and just like slamming through a movie and be like, okay, so what music are they playing in this club? Maybe they're playing fucking Baha Men, like it doesn't. But if you watch it in fucking 2083, you're gonna be like, this is not time appropriate. What's wrong with these gentlemen? Like, what the like? I can understand why that like just doesn't translate because of the passage of time. This movie was not built to be seen in 2021 like most exploitation movies. It was built to flare out as quickly as it came and just make a little bundle of money for somebody.
Is there anything else we want to touch on before we rate this movie?
I had so many more specific things, but we got kind of trapped in the
I'm glad
weeds.
that we're able to talk about so much. I guess I'm glad I was able to talk about so much.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take that.
Anwar. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
if there's anything else, just hit it in your.
I'll just put it in my review.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So out of 5, let's go ahead and rate this thing. Gentleman's Juice, please kick us off. How do you feel about Blood Diner?
I thought this movie was pretty much garbage. I can't believe I watched it twice. I was drinking heavily the second time.
So sorry.
I really don't find much like from a craft standpoint. Like we watch and review movies for almost 7 years straight, and I don't want to give it any kind of pass of like, oh, it's low budget, or oh, it's an exploitation film and that's what they do. From a movie standpoint, from what I saw, the comedy did land for me. And I know that's subjective, and I know it can be, and maybe it is like a spoof and it's very time specific. But watching it with like no background information, didn't find it funny. At best, got a couple chuckles out of it. The sound design was terrible. That like dubbing through the whole movie was wretched, just terrible. I found it very misogynistic. I found it very racist. I found it very homophobic. I found a lot of the scenes like nonsensical. Like just the general... I mean, they like kind of connect that the brother's a wrestler. Like, why do you need to wrestle a Nazi in this movie?
Why do you need to wrestle?
Yeah, like why do you need to wrestle? Yeah, anybody in a movie about a diner.
Also, just to throw in real quick, that dude, like Jimmy Hitler,
Jimmy Hitler
is like back in the day. He was like that was who he wrestled as. That was a real wrestler back.
Yeah.
in the day.
Oh no shit! Of course, yeah. Wrestling, that makes sense.
So a lot of these things, they just don't make a lot of sense sometimes. I I just didn't like this movie. I'm trying to think of some positives. The ending scene, which is funny because Rob was like, that ending scene was pretty blah. And I was like, if anything, like when Sheetar like comes alive and has a mouth open up in her gut and like shit's going out, at least it was like stimulating. I'm not going to say it's good, but at least I felt like something kind of interesting was happening.
I'll be stroking.
No, I'm not stroking.
Stimulating.
Stroking on. And that ending scene where Sheetar kind of gets picked up and she's like, call me Sheetar or whatever. Like that kind of got another chuckle, I guess.
Oh, really? Go ahead. Sorry.
This movie, I didn't like it. I'm going to be a man of my code. I'm going to give it a half star for the Yabos because for the most part, like the women, even though it's a very misogynistic, exploitative film, the women who are flashing their Yabos were not being raped in any kind of way in their scenes for the most part. So I'm going to give a half star for the Yabos, and that's all this movie's going to get from me.
Wow. There you go.
0.5?
A 0.5 for Blood Diner.
Man, if you had no code, imagine where we'd be.
Yeah. Imagine where we'd be.
Okay. Randy, I'm going to let you go next. Like, how do you feel?
Okay. Oh, just want to go with the gradient?
Yeah, how you feel?
Waiting for Bob's 4-star here. All right, Randy.
I'm at this point, I feel like he's going to counterbalance with an absurdly high score. Rob has a history of that.
He's got a code for himself.
So my feeling on this movie is I'm kind of split between you guys, as I'm saying. You know, like I think that the thing that could have saved this movie for me would be either funny intentional jokes or more jokes or less jokes and no intentionality towards jokes at all to make all of its shortcomings funnier. It doesn't really like land for me because it's trying to be funny and at the same time it's poorly put together and the jokes aren't funny. And you know, with my modern sensibilities, those things take a toll as well in just about every scene in some capacity. So, I mean, like, if we watch a fucking dude in a Reagan mask gun down a bunch of women, that's not something in 2021 that fills me with laughter or joy. That's something, or even fear. It just makes me be like, oh God, that feels awful.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that on an entertainment level I enjoyed, and things like that just they take their toll for me. Now that said, there were some things that they did intentionally, like I mentioned before, that I thought were funny. I thought that the guy's insane over the top attitude, the chef and slash wrestler, I thought some of what he was doing was funny because he was like no holds barred, no restraint, insane, you know, fucking nut bag. I enjoyed that to some extent. I enjoyed the meatball, or I'm sorry, the hush puppy head. I enjoyed the guy's head getting crushed, like those sort of broad slapsticky things that could have been in a Naked Gun movie. I'm okay with that. They make me laugh on a very like chuckly level. If there was enough of them strung together and layered the way they do in like Airplane, then maybe this movie could have been great. But instead, it kind of goes for, because it's going for exploitation movie. It does all the exploitation-y things that, you know, don't necessarily land well for me to begin with, and need a very strong sense of humor to support, which this movie does not have. So that's kind of the linchpin for me that could have put this together and could have made some semblance of a movie that I would enjoy and maybe enjoy on the level that Rob's talking about on midnight movie level. But as it is, I don't want to watch this again. I don't ever want to watch this again, really.
Oh, thank God for that statement.
So like, this is not, I can't believe Justin watched it twice as much as he hates it. Because I think there's like, I did like the soundtrack, even though some of it was like weirdly questionable from our perspective. And, you know, and the other thing is like, if there's some of these production stories, this gossip behind the scenes is true, you know, it paints the director in both a positive and negative light, which, you know, does nothing to improve my score and only does things to confuse my sensibilities about, you know, how I should feel about, a woman's breaking into the industry and, you know, paving down paths for people to come down that fit in that minority group in that industry. But it's just by doing things that like arguably harm women in general, like harm the cultural attitude towards women. So, I mean, what are you exchanging here? What's the exchange rate for your own personal, you know, elevation or the elevation of your industry, women in your industry, in exchange, what are you exchanging that for? So I have like just kind of problems with some of that stuff. And some of the comedy, I kind of like the idea of a brain in a jar, but it was not funny enough for me. And just really quickly, before I finish this up, as soon as I'm done with these, I'm going to be done, I swear. But here are some specific notes that I wrote, because I write notes in movies that I either love or can't manage to get through without. Guess which one this is. So, first was the quote, "Suspect was last seen armed with the meat cleaver in one hand and his genitals in another." Thought that was kind of funny.
Hell yeah.
And that kind of clued me into like, oh, this is not the movie I thought it was. There's a Michael Myers style POV cold open, which, just a note, something I noticed. Uncle Anwar has some Raul Julia as Gomez Adams energy to him at the beginning before he gets, death by policed. There's a very anticlimactic off-screen death, but they did come back to it, so that note is null and void. "I'll be back" was written on Anwar's grave, which I thought was kind of funny, but really fucking stupid. Like, some of the things on here are just the things I actually did get enjoyment out of. Our guard's eyes popped out after being hit with a shovel. That's where I realized, okay, this movie is not conforming to reality at all, and that to me was not particularly like funny. It wasn't bad necessarily, but it didn't tickle me. But that's kind of like a red flag for me about what this movie was going to be. This dude's brain didn't rot for 20 years in the ground. Didn't rot. It's totally fine. And this fucking just pops out like a piece of edamame. That's what I wrote here.
Alice had a real serious problem.
Just pops right out of the skull. Overdubbing is impossible to ignore. I wrote, the big dude who gets his ass beat by the chef several times in this movie, he said, "That's the best veggie burger I've had in a son of a bitch long time."
Hell yeah. One of the best lines of the movie.
Son of a bitch. That's
Son of
the
a bitch
least necessary
long
curse
time.
I have ever heard. And I went to a fucking Florida public school. So,
Ooh.
Let's see. I wrote, "Christ, Reagan just opened fire on some nude cheerleaders." Also, maybe I misheard this, but I thought they said that the bar they were going to pick up women for this, loose women, was a gay bar, and there was a significantly more men in there, but they still find women that are seeking men in there. What the fuck's going on? And they're also dressed like like fucking Jetson stage play actors or some shit at that scene.
They are.
That's a very confusing scene for me. Like, if there's a joke there, I'm not really getting it.
Something that is in this movie that is, I guess, not surface level is the character of Georgie is a homosexual, and throughout the movie, the brain
that's the chef, or
the blonde chef.
Yeah. Okay,
the brain of Uncle Anwar makes like a handful of like off-color jokes about him being gay, and that's the only way you're gonna know he's gay. Otherwise, it's not really referenced in the movie. And Uncle Anwar at one point says like, keep Georgie out of those gay bars or whatever. And I think that's what you're remembering.
That might be what I heard then. Yeah, I definitely heard the phrase gay bar, and I connected it to the bar they went to. So I was very confused at that point. I don't know. Jimmy Hitler, the wrestler, that whole concept was like, my God, this movie is really going for it. But apparently he's a real guy. And somehow that totally works into my knowledge of 80s underground fucking wrestling people. Fucking Motown band in this gay bar, I wrote. And with the fucking intact. There's a ventriloquist cook and a life-size dummy in this movie.
Hell yeah.
I just had to write that down.
Valentino, the dummy.
Oh my God, this lady has a deep-fried falafel head. Also, somebody wrote trespassers will be eaten on the side of the thing, but it was spelled as trespassers. Trespassers will be eaten. Anyway, so that's the notes I wrote based on like just everything we've talked about and what I've kind of just my general feeling towards this movie during and throughout and the background, all of that together. I'm going to give it a 1.25, which matches my score for The Being, as I recall. So Ooh, I don't know. I don't remember much about The Being, which maybe like, so it's not really even a comparison. It's just a note, but like, I don't feel strongly that this movie is going to be good for most people. And I think that whatever people get enjoyment out of it, power to them or whatever, but hopefully it's for the fucking, not the most moralistically decrepit reasons. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Bob,
yo,
you have a very different opinion from me. I respect that. And I'm going to bite my tongue while you give us your review out of 5.
Bite that tongue, please. Yeah, so this movie has problems, and like I'm aware of them and acknowledge them. Certain parts of this movie don't age well, for sure. As of most movies from the 80s have certain problems. However, like the comedy from this movie from the get-go, like it's very self-aware and lets you know what it wants to be. The movie opens up with this like ridiculous warning about like mass homicide and like blood cults and all this shit, and like don't take it seriously. Like we're all very professionals around here. We know how to murder folks. And then you got Uncle Anwar running into the scene with a cleaver in one hand and allegedly his dick in the other, but we don't ever see that, which is probably for the best.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely for the best. But you've got like the groundskeeper's eyeballs bashed out of his head. Uncle Anwar's brain launches out of his skull. You've got this like ridiculous professional wrestler, Jimmy Hitler, which is in poor taste for sure. You've got like everybody's being murdered and they're all vegetarians, and like that's somewhat comedic. You've got the head deep fried. I don't know. Like the movie tells you what it's going to be from the get-go, and like if you're not into it, you're not ever going to be into it. But I take it with a grain of salt. I enjoy it for what it is. The comedy is not highbrow. I think the most intriguing part of the movie for me is like the history of the production, and like knowing that it is a female director, and like wanting to like discuss that aspect of it, I think is what really like makes this movie interesting to me. And it sort of lends it to repeat viewings. Whereas a movie that wasn't directed by a female may not be as interesting to me. I don't know. I just feel like there's more to be had with that conversation, more to chew on, and like it's something that I want to get to the bottom of. That like I don't know that we ever will, unless we just like happen to get the director on and like just allow her to.
I think that's
speak for herself.
That would be quite a get at this point.
It would be. I don't know that that's ever gonna happen, but like it
Spam our
adds,
inbox, children.
Yeah. I'm looking at Miles because Miles doesn't give a fuck. He will DM a director.
That's true.
Miles is willing to get that restraining order for results.
Yeah. So it's like the comedy's dumb. It is. I don't mind it. As far as like a midnight movie goes, like it's what I expect, and I do enjoy it to a certain level. It doesn't all age very well, but I don't know. Like I said, like the conversation to be had about the production of this movie and the director behind this movie is what is most intriguing to me, and I want to have that conversation, and I want to like come to some sort of consensus, which is probably impossible. But that's what really elevates this movie to me. I want to have that conversation, that ongoing conversation, which we have not put to bed here during this podcast at all, which is not the intention of this podcast.
Yeah,
but I do enjoy this movie. And like it's something that I wouldn't mind watching again because of that history and knowing that history. Also, because the jokes generally are fine for me. The slapstick is fine for me personally. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I'm
genuinely surprised you didn't go for the 5.
No, that's insane.
That's insane. That's insane. It's on record now that this is certainly significantly better than The Lodge, according to Bob.
It is, in my opinion, which is what this podcast is.
3.5.
It's all about our opinions.
It's funny, though. You gave your score. I respect that. However, you never really talked about, like, for a 3.5 score, the only thing was, like, the history? Is that what? I mean, that's purely what a lot of
the comedy he's saying, right?
And the comedy. So
you said the comedy was fine. You said it's fine for me. You didn't say like it's fucking hilarious.
So I enjoy the slapstick. So as far as the comedy goes, there's like kind of two sides to it. Like the practical slapsticky shit, I am 100% there for. Like I really do enjoy that.
Okay.
Some of the like spoken comedy, like the punchlines are not particularly great, and some of them just like flat out don't age well. Ooh. And I have a problem with those for sure, as anybody probably would or should in the year 2021. So I can't like broad stroke love all the comedy, but the slapstick like physical shit I am 100% there for. Yeah.
Okay.
And then on top of that, the production history really adds a lot of intrigue and like context and just like generally adds to the conversation that I'm very interested in that conversation. Like I want to have that.
If this was directed by a man and everything else stayed the same, how much lower do you think your score would be?
I don't know.
Like a star, a full star.
I would be less interested in having a conversation about the movie because it I don't know. It would just be exploitation.
For the record, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it would just be like another exploitation. It would be Roger Corman doing another Roger Corman movie. It wouldn't be. It would lose a lot of intrigue for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, yeah, and to me, it's like that. I think there's a reasonable. You can reasonably say that my score will change based on some of the production issues with a movie. I think we've done that in different ways throughout various different movies, so I don't think it's wrong to do that.
Yeah.
No,
I was just curious.
But I'm glad that the comedy is brought up, and I guess the soundtrack for you as positives to kind of justify that high of a score, because otherwise, like within the text of the movie, there's not a whole lot that I feel like there is to grab onto if you want to defend this movie, because obviously very few people are going to defend the, exploitative nature of it. Very few people are going to defend the fucking overdubbing or some of the acting,
Yeah.
but
Also,
they might defend the slapstick and they might defend the music to some extent.
I think the music
And
is
the
great.
ragtag nature of the production enthuses a lot into that, and that accounts for some of my score for sure. Definitely. I would say that maybe like a 0.5 from my score is dedicated to that alone.
I will also say, like, having watched at least a dozen Italian productions, like having difficult overdubs, like doesn't phase me at all. Like I'm just used to it at this point. Like that's how like old ass Italian movies were made. They overdubbed literally everything all the time because they did not record audio on the day. So
Yeah,
I'm just
it might
used
not
to that.
phase you, but I mean, just from a craft standpoint, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's tough for comedy to come through when you're overdubbing. Very fucking tough.
Completely agree. I'm just saying, like, it didn't like stand out to me, I guess, as it might for somebody else. But I completely agree. You're right.
Yeah.
That's going to put our aggregate at a 1.75. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Blood Diner.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this segment is the Rotten Tomatoes segment, and how this works is I'm going to have these two gentlemen guess within the best of their ability what the aggregate scores are for this movie, both the critic score and audience score on RottenTomatoes.com. Let's start with the critic score, as we usually do, and this is a really, really low entry movie, as you might expect. Only 7 reviews counted in the critics category.
I actually thought that there might be a chance that this didn't have a critic rating.
Yeah, that would be a fair guess, but no, there are 7. So let's start with Bob this time, since he just wrapped up his review. What do you think the critics would say for this movie, generally?
I cannot believe it's going to be very high at all. It's a lowbrow movie. Critics are... It's not made for critics. I'm going to go with a 35.
No, it's not. 35 percentile. Okay. Soju, how about you?
35. Whew, that's not low enough. What was our aggregate score?
1.75.
Okay.
Trying to do some math.
Well... Man,
Juice.
Well, also too, I'm figuring out like 7, so 7 divided by 100. So I'll just take the low end. I'm too drunk to do quick math right now, but I'll say 25%.
25%. All right. Well, you may be a little surprised to hear, but Bob's going to take this one. It's actually 57%.
Oh,
Damn.
Jesus.
That's impressive.
Oh,
That's
my
a
Lord.
winning. That's a winning record.
Oh no, that's so unfortunate.
There's only a few reviews here from the critics, so I'm going to read the 2 negatives that are on the main page for me.
Okay.
The first one says, intentionally funny thriller is not as funny as the straight films it mocks. So it's not as funny as the movies that it's supposedly spoofing, because and it's intentionally trying to be funny. This is my extrapolation. It's intentionality in trying to be funny. It just falls short because it's not sincere enough to be funny in its badness. That's my read of that. I agree with it.
All right.
Second review, negative review. We always read these, by the way, because they're usually funnier, but in this case, they're just prescient. Gruesomely silly, but not even remotely as funny as it thinks it is. Blood Diner is something of a chore to get through, even for those of us who might otherwise appreciate a gory black comedy. And I think that's fair. I can appreciate a gory black comedy.
Yeah.
Like, fucking Shaun of the Dead's one of my favorite fucking movies.
Oh, yeah.
This is no Shaun of the Dead. It's not even in the category.
It's way better than that, baby.
It's only 1.5 off.
Let's move it on over to the user score. So there are more of these.
I got a kick out of Bob.
There's 500 plus ratings for the audience from this one. And Juice, we'll start with you this time. What do you think the audience would have thought of this movie?
Wait, how many, Randy? Sorry.
500 plus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know, man. I guess this has some sort of a cult status to it. I guess the people who would come on to Rotten Tomatoes would probably defend it. So I'll go higher than I normally would, I guess. The other one was 57. I'll say 53. I don't know why.
53. Okay, that's a very specific choice. All right.
I don't know. It spoke to me.
Yeah. What did it say? All right, Bob, your turn. What are you thinking for the user score? 500 plus reviews.
I'm just gonna go with a comedy number, 69, please.
Oh,
69 dudes.
69.
All right, 69. Well, Bob, you're gonna regret that because Juice is gonna take this one, and his wild second integer there, second number, is so close to the truth. It's 50% even.
Holy shit. Wow.
Damn.
Okay.
50%.
Damn.
Yeah, very, very close. Good work there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We're going to get a Harry.
Hey.
Harry.
Where was my whiskey?
The whiskey's shining through.
You didn't even, Bob, you don't even ask for a housekeeper.
Here you
most
go,
of the
Bob.
time.
There you go.
Where's my hell yeet, Randy? Where's 2 p.m. Todd? Randy! 2 p.m. Todd went through all that work to record all this hell yeet.
All right, we're ready to go here.
Yep. Thank you, Randy. Let's go ahead and get into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
I don't think we should do that.
I know you don't have any, but I've got a couple things.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Because I was like, nope. All right, go for it, Bob.
I'll blast through just a few points real quick. So this is Jackie Kong's third film. She also made sure, I already kind of mentioned, her entire production team was female-driven. That means the producer that secured the funding for the movie, the main production manager, the DP, the costume designer, they were all females working in Hollywood at the time.
Interesting. Can I say that, like, in that review I read,
yeah,
I don't know what's incongruous here, but it does say the producer they were talking about that bought Baloney was named Jimmy Maslin. So that does not sound like a female name.
No, yeah, I'm not sure who that is. I can't speak to that.
I'm going to look on the IMDb for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the producers, again, did own all the rights to Herschel Gordon Lewis's filmography, which is why they were originally going to make Blood Feast 2, which then ended up being Blood Diner. Jackie Kong was eventually able to secure the entire doo-wop soundtrack for $100, which is in-fucking insane. She made a deal with this I guess record exec. She gave him $100 and he gave her full access to his entire catalog of music, and she just picked.
I feel like there's a lot of off the book shit there. I feel like there's a huge bag of cocaine involved in that deal that we'll never hear about.
Probably so. Rick Burks, who played Michael Tutman. I already mentioned, like, he was a lead singer for a punk rock band, but unfortunately he passed away a couple years after the completion of filming of this movie in a car accident. And some of his cast members recalled him saying that he never wanted to live past the age of 30 when they were on set filming, and it's just one of those unfortunate things that actually did come true.
That's the worst mission achieved I've ever heard.
That is a bit of a bummer. They hired a bunch of extras from punk rock bands.
Was it?
Yeah.
Do you know if that includes the trumpet playing Hitlers that never actually put their mouths to the horn?
Yeah, do
you think the mics pick up their dancing?
that is a band. I can't speak to the people who are like faking to play instruments, but that was a band. I can't remember their name, but that was a legitimate band that was on stage at the time.
I don't doubt that.
The nude aerobic scene in this movie was allegedly. It apparently inspired like a legit nude aerobics workout video.
Oh my god! Produced. I thought you were gonna say a real shooting. Holy shit!
No.
Randy.
God damn. It was done in jest, and then apparently shortly after, a legitimate nude aerobics workout video was then released. The MPAA wanted Jack
We did it! Yay!
The MPAA wanted Jackie Kong to make a lot of cuts. To which she refused, and then Vestron backed her up and allowed her to release the film as an unrated movie. So no cuts were made of this. This is exactly what she wanted it to be.
They probably wanted her to cut the bush.
Nobody wants you to cut the bush.
I mean, this is 1987. I think that's the tides were turning on Bush around this time.
Yeah.
The tides are turning on Bush.
Yeah. Both presidential and genital hair.
Glycerine's my jam.
Everybody started drinking Bush Light in 1987.
Real turn for Bush.
It's made all glycerin.
This movie was shot front to back in 3 weeks and had 3 weeks of rehearsals beforehand so that everybody had their shit down. The budget of this movie was $330,000, and that's what I got as far as trivia. Gentlemangs, you know what time it is? It's time to go hunting.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a cooter? Why are we hunting him?
Let me tell you all about it, Bob. Cooter is character type and a straight showing exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. We want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points are smug arrogance, sexual deviance, manipulation, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I don't think we have any shortage of cooters this week. Can we knock out the cooter of the week first up, though? What do y'all think?
I honestly, exploitation movies are really difficult for this segment in general.
The brothers Tupman, I would say.
I was kind of feeling Anwar.
Yeah, that too.
Anwar. He's manipulating the children, we could say.
He's manipulating his looking attire. He's a brain in a jar, so I think that counts. Let's see.
Sexual deviant. He raped the Glee Club
and murdered
and he
them.
cut off his own schlong.
Yeah.
As he frequently mentions.
After thinking about that, were they saying that he cut them off or that he was running around with his junk in his hand? See, I got that.
It was he cut his dick off.
They did say he cut his dick off?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
I think the implication was that he fucked them when he wasn't supposed to because he impurified them and made the seance go badly.
And
in penance, he cut his own schlong off.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then smug arrogance. Lord knows, he's got very much the air of like a master shredder or some shit for some reason, where he's like he's like the boss of a couple of numbskull low-line henchmen sort of thing.
Like he treats his nephews like shit. He always calls that one a homo or whatever, constantly.
I didn't realize he was specifically, I'm sorry, that was going back, but I didn't realize he was supposed to be gay, and that was specifically slurs about his specific lifestyle.
I didn't notice it the first time. When Bob mentioned it before we watched it the second time, it's much more noticeable. Because like his brother Michael is like making out with the trashy chick that they picked up at that crazy club, and he's like very hesitant. He's like separate from his or whatever. Like there's like little hints that like, yeah, that's probably the case.
I just thought he was too insane for love. Anyway,
we
so yeah,
all?
I think Anwar in particular, I mean, he's pathetic also. He gets fucking kidnapped by a dude who speaks through a ventriloquist dummy
Yeah.
and has to lie his way out of telling him a secret recipe. And it's just like, it's just fucking, no. I think he hits every point.
I don't
and
know.
Really hard.
If I had to say one, I was leaning toward, like, if we had to separate it, I think we could label the whole family as Cooter level. But if we had to pick
Definitely.
a specific one, I was leaning toward Michael. So Michael, I think he's more manipulative because he does that whole hypnotizing thing. So he's the one who's got the hypnotism down.
Oh yeah, I fucking forgot about that.
Looking at Tyre, what he's bumping at the club is insane. I don't even know where he got that fucking outfit for the time.
He
but-
looks like an extra from the Jetsons. He really does.
So I would say
He looks like Dennis
Yeah.
Reynolds in his space glam rock band.
Sexual deviant for sure, because he's the one actually. He's not just okay with killing these chicks. He's like putting the moves on them too, and like the whole like, oh, we're gonna get kinky, and he's like, how about battered girlfriend? And I was like, no matter how you take that, it's not okay.
She was into it.
Yeah. So I of the brothers, like I would give him the highest sexual deviance. What else? Smug arrogance. I mean, yeah, he's got it. They all have it with the whole Sheetar level cult, religion thing going on. He seems to kind of drive it the most, like the whole Sheetar thing. But pathetic. Is he pathetic? Probably.
I'd say just the triumvirate. Like
They are, yeah, the
uncle
whole
and
family.
and the two
The
nephews.
Tutman clan
sure.
is
Yeah, the
is
Tutman
pretty.
squad.
Tutman trilogy.
I think any one of them could be classified as Cooter of the Week, but together they form a fucking goddamn Voltron Cooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're Cooters. Now, there's others like the cops,
Yeah,
like the partner.
dude, the male cop in particular.
Well, the male cop and their like male boss or whatever. That guy.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
both. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with that guy. I'd hesitate. I can't think of specific examples enough of him to really justify
I think
too
the
much of
male
that.
cop definitely hits.
He's just being
enough.
clueless.
Yeah.
The male cop does for sure because he is constantly trying to pull that woman's clothes off.
Yeah, cutting like her buttons off with his pocket.
I wasn't only going to go to it, and he also has like a voice that does not match his face. In my
Yeah,
opinion,
it could be a different guy. We don't know.
it's like he's putting on a voice, but it's also overdubbed. So it's that I actually thought, is this movie fucking Italian? I thought it might be specifically
Yeah.
because of that
it's
guy.
a fair assumption.
So I think that guy hits on the Cooter charts as well. There's probably plenty.
The club owners, fucking Jimmy Hitler, just on principle.
Jimmy,
You don't know enough about him, but his fucking name is Jimmy Hitler.
that other vegetarian like guy that runs
Yeah.
the
Vitamin
shop.
C? Oh, you're talking about
The shop
owner.
owner, the ventriloquist.
The shop owner, the ventriloquist.
Pathetic out the wazoo.
The guy who's definitely fingering Valentino, his puppet.
Okay.
What? Oh, is Valentino the name of the puppet?
Yeah, that's the name of the puppet.
Okay, all right. That was fucking weird.
Ugh.
I think this whole and it's an exploitation movie, so just on principle, the entire cast and crew
Yeah.
are participating
Jackie
in a
Kong. I
amalgam
think we can
Cooter.
slap her with the Cooter of the week.
Hey.
Oh, she's a woman. She can't be a Cooter, huh, Bob?
That's not.
Oh my god.
We have talked about female cooters before on this podcast.
Culture
and
wars.
Definitely concluded
I'm just razzing
they
Bob.
exist.
3.5, Mr. 3.5 over here.
Get the fuck out of here.
That's what you rated it. I'm stating your
This
score
is-
as it is.
You're razzing me. This is my opinion.
Giving them a good razz.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you guys got to say something nice like this.
I like your hat.
There you go. We're all back to
Thanks.
normal. Squared
Thanks,
up.
Bob. My hat is on point
You're
tonight.
not wearing a hat.
Whoa.
If you were, it'd be really nice, I'm sure.
Really pulling the curtain back here, Rob. I'm gonna need you to pump the brakes.
I'm constantly wearing a Jimmy's hat,
What?
just in case.
So you can
A
just
Jimmy Hitler hat?
So you can just piss like whenever you need. Like
What?
It's wearing that Jimmy
Juice
Hitler
has
ball
a
cap.
has a colostomy bag. He's just always
Well,
packing.
okay.
Always packing.
Okay.
So
That
Uncle
was fun.
Anwar and the two boys. That's
Michael and George.
Yeah, it sounds like we got him.
George, I just pissed.
George Michael.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You got to have faith. All right, book 'em, Dano.
Why are you quoting Fred Durst, Randy?
That's a Limp Bizkit original, and everybody knows that. Everybody.
Every
Quite ironic.
Yes.
All right.
All right, we booked them.
We got them.
this is a very focused segment.
Let us continue. We're letting our hair down. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Yo, Randy, what you been watching?
Yup. As opposed to the last couple of weeks, I had almost no viewing of anything in this week. It's just a very, very busy week for me.
All right.
One thing I did do, which this was a couple weeks ago, and I just haven't brought it up. I had mentioned I've been doing that Ring Fit Adventure game, which has been, pretty good results for me. And I finished the main campaign or main story of that, which, at a rate of about 20 minutes per day of just straight working out with that thing. It took me from November to now to get that done.
Wow, okay.
So it's a pretty long game, and there's bonus levels and shit, and there's a lot of extra shit. So I'm really, really pleased with the purchase of that game. Like, if you're looking for like a little aerobic-y workout that's going to work you out a little bit more than you think, but not go crazy off the charts with it, you could do a fuck ton worse. I recommend it.
Good.
And really the only thing I've actually sat down and watched this week is a movie that I think just about everybody's seen from our generation, but I just never got to, which is Legally Blonde. Juice, have you seen that?
I have not. Wait.
Oh, really?
Legally Blonde. I don't think I have.
No, really? Okay, well,
I don't think
I'm
so.
totally blanking on her name. What's her fucking name?
Is it Reese?
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Witherspoon.
Oh,
Yeah.
Reese.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like her, as I understand it, her breakout role. Rob just got back from grabbing a drink. Let me see
Rob,
what he
have
says.
you seen Legally Blonde?
Yeah, but it's been a real long time. I don't really remember much.
That's where she's like a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
She
And
becomes
she
a
wears
lawyer.
the hot pink.
Yes, it's very 2000s, early 2000s
I
look.
think I've seen parts of it.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely seen parts of it. It's like it's a big movie for our generation, especially within feminine circles. It was like a big thing because there's some girl power stuff going on in it. But I had never seen it, and I finally got a chance to watch it, and it's pretty schmaltzy, but I did enjoy myself. I like Reese Witherspoon as an actress. I think she's really, really good, and she's better when she's not doing crazy broad, in my opinion, like broad performances. And she does go pretty broad at points in this movie, but I thought it was all right. It was serviceable, and I don't know. I don't have very strong love of it, nor do I, but I see the value of it. You know what I mean? I thought it was funny enough and, good enough story for what it was. But the thing about it that I wanted to bring up, which I guess neither of you guys are in a position to know or remember maybe, is the boyfriend in that movie is a pretty strong candidate for Cooter lockup.
Damn.
Oh, really? I don't remember.
Pretty
We got to do the
damn
movie.
strong.
We got to cover it. Let's do it. Next
Yeah,
week
okay.
we're doing it.
All right, in the next poll, it's going to be Mac and Me, Legally Blonde, and fucking, I don't know,
Clueless.
Turbo, the movie about a snail from DreamWorks.
Yeah. We need to have a large female guest cast on and to talk about women in cooters and how,
Phrasing.
and how influential they are in real life.
How big? I mean, someone giant.
Like old Skeet Ulrich.
Oh
Oh,
my God.
Skeet.
Yeah, my boy.
Yeah,
Skeet.
something's lost in translation for me on that one. But yeah, I honestly, I said
get
this to
Nicole
Becky
on
while
for
we
that
were
one.
watching this movie.
Yeah.
While I was watching Legally Blonde, I turned to Becky and I said, "I'm surprised Skeet Ulrich isn't playing this role. He was like
Ulrich.
the go-to."
Ulrich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He's the drummer for Metallica, right?
Yeah. They must be like related in some way because they have similar
to
traits.
be.
They have to be.
They're small.
They're
and
just too
greasy.
similar.
Ugh. My boy Skeet.
Well, I'm going to attribute that phrase to you. But yeah, he's a manipulative piece of shit. He's smug as shit. He's a sexual deviant. His look and attire, I mean, you could debate this. It was the early 2000s and shit, but he is looking like fucking, it's part of the smugness. You know what I mean? And then patheticness, very fucking pathetic by the end of this movie. Cooters outside of the realm of horror, man. They're out there.
They're out there.
I don't always think about
I
them.
believe we
but-
could find cooters in comedy for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they're written that way for the same
And
reason that they are in
action.
horror
Probably
movies a lot of the way.
villains and action films are probably.
I think,
cooters.
yeah, you think about the lawyer from Jurassic Park. That guy's
There you
kind of a
go.
cooter.
Oh,
There you go.
100%.
Yeah, but I mean that's a horror film, so that's within
Right,
our
you're
realm.
totally true.
Debatable. Also, listen to our podcast episode 160, maybe?
Was
I don't know.
it? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
where we
that's
spend
a
the whole
long
time
time ago.
debating genres instead
Yeah.
of the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just wanted to bring that up for the Cooter qualities of it. If you want a good early 2000s goofball, sort of like silly teen drama comedy sort of thing in the vein of Clueless with a strong ass Cooter, that's the one. That's the one.
Tight. Juice, what you been watching?
I wrapped up season 3 of True Detective. I did a mini cast on it. I liked it. The acting in that show is phenomenal.
So good.
So good. I liked a lot of the choices they made. And kind of brought some things back from the first one, but in a very subtle, kind of more of just like honorific way. It wasn't like shoved down your throat. It was very tastefully done. It was good. I'm glad I finally got to finish it. You can check out my extended thoughts on that on Patreon. I finished season 5 of the British baking show, the Great British Baking or whatever.
Bake Off.
The Great British Fuck Off.
So I watched season 3 was the first one I watched. I don't know. Sometimes I do that. Like with shows that don't matter, like it doesn't have a story, you got to continue. I started with season 3 and enjoyed it. And then for some reason just jumped to season 5 and they changed like the host and co-host. And I didn't. It was weird.
I don't like it.
Well, it's not that I did. I got to like it better, like as it moved on. But now I want to go back. I think so. I read
We
up
have
a
to
little.
go back.
Yeah, the first 4 seasons, like they were on like BBC or something, and then they changed over, and only one person like stayed on. And so I'm like, man. So I want to go back to my OG crew and see if I like it just as much as I did when I watched season 3 for the first time. So
I'll tell you, that's where it lost me too. Like I didn't watch it sequentially or anything, just here and there. But when it got to anybody beyond the Mary Berry and Paul, whatever,
yeah.
like once we got to those and like the different hosts or whatever, I loved the hosts in those first few seasons.
Me
I thought they were really
too.
charming.
Yeah.
And I like some of these actors and some of these people that they bring in for hosting duties later on. There's several changes over.
Yeah.
And some of them are fine at like in other things, but in this I just miss the originals and it just doesn't feel right.
That's what I was feeling too, man. So I want to go back because now it's kind of even. It's 1-1, but I agree with you. I was like, I like the OG squad, so I'll probably go back for that. That's still so delightful, though. It's like a sunshine in my day. Somebody mentioned it, I think, on Slack. I'm sorry, I can't remember who says things on there because the conversations, they're plentiful.
True.
But I started watching that Harley Quinn show that's on HBO Max. It's animated and it's actually pretty funny. It's made like a sitcom, almost like a New Girl or something, but for super villains. So it follows Harley Quinn and like her roommates, like she's roommates with like Poison Ivy. And of course, a lot of things and like Killer Shark is there, one of their buddies, and a bunch of like D kind of level villains kind of show up. And it deals with stuff like, like break up with their boyfriend, he's no good for you, and shit like that. So they take this like sitcom level, but they also take like DC animated stuff and make it very adult. And so the first the first episode or 2, they really drive that home that this is very like adult oriented. There's a lot of like, adult oriented jokes and stuff, but they kind of ease off a little bit from that once they tell you what kind of show this is. It's pretty funny. It's they're short, they're like 25 minutes. But it's been pretty good so far. Like Commissioner Gordon, he's just like so incompetent in this one. So it's got like a little different spin on, it's just some tropes of Batman. It's played up really hard as a comedy. Like Bane, they do the Dark Knight Bane voice. I really like Bane because he's actually this huge guy, but he's like real timid and he gets bossed around a lot.
Do you know who plays him? Just out of curiosity.
I don't. No,
Okay.
I don't. But
I wonder if they got Paul F. Tompkins to do it, because I believe it's him that's somewhat famous for doing a Bane impression.
Maybe, but I don't know. It's just pretty funny. Like one episode, like they went to this. It was Penguin's nephew's like bar mitzvah and stuff, and like, I don't know. It's pretty funny actually. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting through that one. But yeah, other than that, I think that's mainly what I've been watching. Bob,
Yo.
what you been watching?
So I checked out Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Ooh.
Is that the no?
Steven
Okay, yeah.
Spielbergo film from
Okay.
Yes.
1977.
How was it?
So this is the first time I ever seen it. Corey, shouts outs to Corey, hit me up. He was like, yo, you ever seen this movie? I was like, nah. He's like, we got to watch it. So came over, checked it out. Science fiction, early Spielberg, early science fiction for him. It's like a solid fucking movie. Like, it feels like a Spielberg movie, but it feels to me like a more hectic version of E.T. Like he was like kind of working through how he wanted to make an alien film personal, which is difficult to do. I feel like I see him like his gears turning for this movie, and then like when you watch E.T., you're like, that's when he figured it out. Like, he really landed on E.T. But this movie is like, it's got Richard Dreyfuss in it. It can't, he did Jaws, and then I think this was 2 years after Jaws. Jaws 75, this was 77. Richard Dreyfuss again. Dreyfuss fucking kills it. Great performance.
He's so great.
This movie is like hectic as fuck though. Like Jaws feels very focused. Like Jaws is kind of a big movie, or at least it kind of feels big. It's in a small town, but like it feels weighty. Like you really feel the characters in it. In this movie, I feel like there's so much going on, and it's just like so busy that you don't sit with the characters long enough to like really feel what they're going through. And then he corrects that in E.T., where like you really fucking feel the characters again.
It's a pretty big movie for trope establishment too.
Yeah,
for both Spielberg movies and movies in general, because Spielberg is so influential.
Yeah, definitely so. Like, solid visually, definitely worth watching, very entertaining, pretty motherfucking movie, but definitely feels like E.T. training wheels for me. Yeah, that's kind of my read on it. Worth watching though, for sure. Also, revisited Scream. I got to introduce Alice to Scream. First time for her watching it.
Apparently Bob fell asleep. That's how good it is, huh, Bob?
Whoa, Skeet wasn't keeping you going this time?
Whoa. I passed out for
It's my boy Dick.
The last like 5 or 10 minutes I fell asleep.
How did Alice like Skeet, huh?
We didn't speak specifically about the aw Skeet.
That's not a good sign.
That bodes poorly for me.
You're no Skeet, Bob.
She's gonna leave you from Skeet Ulrich circa 1996.
I'm just not greasy enough. Actually, so Skeet Ulrich, she did actually inform me that Skeet Ulrich is still acting, which I did not know at all.
Wasn't he in a movie that we covered like within the past 5 years or something? Or like the movie came out?
He was in The
the past 5
Craft.
years?
Was he? No, I don't know about that.
I'm gonna look.
Yeah, he was in The Craft.
No, I know. I'm talking about like a new movie. Yeah. He's in that fucking that TV show with like fucking Archie and what Riverdale. He's in Riverdale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that CW show. I think that's CW, right? I've never seen it, but he's in Riverdale. And he, like, to me, like, she pulled it up, and I was, like, looking at some screen caps. He looks, like, way healthier and more normal now than he did when he was, like, a young buck. Like, he looks cocaine-fueled in the 1995, 1996. Wow. And, like, he looks better now. Like,
that's good.
Good for him. Yeah.
Anyway, that movie holds up.
He was in Escape Room. We covered Escape Room.
He was in Escape Room?
Fuck, did we just gloss that?
He was Bryce in Escape Room. I don't know who that is, but he's credited as Bryce from Escape Room. We covered that movie on this cast.
And it is forgettable. I don't remember him in that.
I remember.
I gave it a pretty
I only remember
score.
them.
it's like
We did. I remember like thinking that movie was all right. Like it was just a little romp or whatever, but I don't remember any names that I would have
Me
recognized
either.
from it, except for there was one person in there that I did recognize, and I can't
says
remember who it was,
directed-
but they were gone pretty quick.
On Wikipedia, it's labeled as a 2018 American horror film directed by Peter Dukes and starring Ski Ulrich.
huh.
So,
What the fuck?
Huh.
yeah, how did we miss
Interesting.
that? Does seem weird we missed it.
Hey, this is just another friendly reminder that we're not professionals and we suck at this. So if
Also,
you don't like
like-
it, I'm so sorry.
To be honest, we may have mentioned that on that podcast and like just forgotten
That's
that we
true.
mentioned it.
That's fair.
Like, I don't remember what we said on that show.
That's true.
Because it
Dude,
was like
I don't
3
remember.
years
Yeah.
ago.
It was a Patreon pick. Somebody picked it for Patreon.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, Scream holds up. It like definitely kept Alice on her toes. She was trying to figure out who the killer was, and like actually was better at guessing who it was than I would have ever fucking been. But it kept her up though. Like it is effective still to this day. Solid fucking movie. Outside of that, I just want to mention what I've been listening to real quick, which again, due to Alice, is Girl Talk. Fucking Girl Talk is killing me right now. Randy, I think you're the first person I ever heard like mention Girl Talk ever. I don't know.
Girl Talk, the musician.
Yeah. The
Oh,
DJ.
okay. I was very confused. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sorry, I was looking up Skeet Ulrich. And by the way, just really quick before we move on.
Yeah.
Different escape room movie. Different one.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
both came out 2018.
This one's 2017, the one with Skeet.
Oh my god, it's labeled as 2018 for me.
Oh, really? On IMDb, it says 2017, and I looked up the other escape room, which was definitely the one we watched, and it does not include him. So there's your answer. It's two movies by the same name.
Problem.
Makes sense though, because it was in the burgeoning years of the escape room
Yeah,
that have
those were hot back then.
died of COVID recently.
True.
So
Yeah. So
sorry, Rob.
revisited Girl Talk. Listened to the entire album, Feed the Animals, and that shit slaps start to fucking
It's a great fucking album.
finish. It is so fucking good. It's been years since I've heard it, and like as soon as it came on, like I just thought of you, Randy, because you're the person that introduced me to Girl Talk, and I was like, fuck, it's been so long since I've heard this, and it is just like straight up ear candy. If you have any interest in listening to like solid mashups, put
Yeah.
Girl Talk in your ears. It's just so much fun. It's so much
I'm such an easy mark for a good mashup, but I don't seek it out. Girl Talk is
Yeah.
like the first one I heard that did it like so fucking well that I couldn't that I actually looked into his repertoire instead of just taking a track here or there off of iTunes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's good shit. If you're interested in that, Bob, I'm trying to look up this other artist who I just recently found out. He's more known for his YouTube stuff, but it's like almost hilarious versions of Girl Talk.
Nice. Okay.
Neil Cicerega. He has 4 albums.
Okay.
I can't get that right, but he's got 4 albums that I know of. Mouth Sounds, Mouth Moods, Mouth Silence, and Mouth Dreams.
Whoa.
And they are all very, very funny to me. He does a lot of sampling of All Star by Smash Mouth, for example.
I am down.
Yeah, look it up.
Definitely.
It's good
Okay.
shit. If you like Girl Talk, it's like that, but funny to me.
Sweet.
So,
All about it. Slam some Girl Talk into your ear holes. But that's all I've been watching and listening to. We got one more segment, and that is our Hotline Scream.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and you want to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. This is another week where we had just a shitload of voicemails. We're going to play a lot of them. We just cannot play all of them. So apologies if we don't get to you this week. We're going to try our best to get to you next week. So patience.
No guarantees.
Patience, please. Yeah.
Can't guarantee.
First up, we had a lot of prompts, and God knows I can't remember them. I just
we
can't.
talked about a lot of things. Sometimes
It's
people
not a
pull
formalized process at all.
Yeah.
Blockbuster.
Also, like people will call in like 3 weeks
There's
after we
the scare
post a
rooms.
prompt. you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard to like we can't recap them all. Anyway, first
if you call in response to a prompt, please remind us what it is. By the way,
and
which most people do.
First up, it's Cole. We'll see what Cole's talking about. I don't
All right,
know.
Cole. What prompt are you responding to, buddy?
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Cole calling from Canada. I just tried to call and someone called me just as I was starting my voice message. But just wanted to call and say I don't know how I did it, but somehow I've gotten 2 weeks without listening. So I just listened to the Sixth Sense episode finally, and I was going to call in about the Blockbuster stories. So you posed a new bump or a new question this week about which one scared you. So I guess I'll start with that one because I remember going in and watching or looking at Dreamcatcher, and it scared the shit out of me because when I was little, I walked into it on it once and there was some bullies at the beginning making a kid eat shit or something like that. And I thought that was pretty hardcore. And I remember my cousin was watching it and she's quite a bit older than me and she saw that I was watching and she freaked out and was like, no, you can't see this. This is too crazy. So then I watched it much older. I was like 16 or 17 or something like that. I remember thinking how fucking stupid the movie was at that point. I haven't rewatched it since. I've heard some people say it's not that bad. Maybe it's worth rewatching. I don't know. But then the other one was The Village because I remember seeing The Village on like a preview and being so excited for probably 3 years. I wanted to watch this movie. And I'd see it in Blockbusters, and I was freaking out. My uncle and auntie used to take us when we were little. And they wouldn't let me get it. Which actually brings me to my next point, because I have seen The Village since, and it's one of the worst fucking movies I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if it's because of the hype for 3 years, but god damn, do I hate that movie. So we need to stop giving The Village a pass. But as for actually what we picked in Blockbuster, my cousins, I'd go with my two cousins and they would always pick something right away. My one cousin would always pick, usually a game. I remember her getting Dark Cloud lots for PS2 and actually the Green Army Men game for N64 we often got. And then my littler cousin would always pick Air Bud or something like that. And then I'd just be browsing through everything and then get anxiety because it's time to pick a movie. And then I would always pick Nightmare Before Christmas. My cousins would get so mad at me because I'd pick it. I mean, we'd go every weekend, and every time I'd be looking at everything.
And he's cut off.
Oh no.
Well, I think we got the gist, though. Yeah, definitely
sounds like he defaulted to Nightmare Before Christmas, even if it wasn't Christmas.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
Yeah.
It's interesting that The Village and what was the first one he mentioned?
Dreamcatcher.
Dreamcatcher. Neither of those movies I have, and it's not a great movie, but I did enjoy it all right. It's got some funny performances, like the dude who says, Jonesy. I love that.
That movie sucks.
Oh, okay.
The Village is way better than Dreamcatcher.
I
don't know if I agree with that. I think they're both in the valley of mediocrity, personally.
I will say we've been talking a lot about The Village lately because we covered The Sixth Sense. I do remember within the past 2 years, I believe, on this podcast, probably around when we were getting ready to talk about Glass, I watched The Village and couldn't make it through and made a mention on What You've Been Watching on ours. And I was like, hey, I was watching The Village lately. And about how much more disappointed I was in it than I remember or than I was anticipating.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Rewatch Dreamcatcher.
Oh. I don't think I've ever seen Dreamcatcher.
God damn.
I don't think. Anyway, so I'll give it to him. I do remember the last time I tried to watch Village, it wasn't as good as I even remembered it, but...
Bob's not a Duddits guy. I like The Village fine. It's really the performances in that movie are what I think that I latched onto as being all right. That saved whatever enjoyability there was for me. But that was also everybody was privy to the idea of there being a twist at the end of Shyamalan movies. It was well established. Everybody saw that one in particular coming. And it, like by 10 minutes into that movie, most people realize what was going on, and then it's just a slog to the finish. And that's the real pain in that movie, is that if he had just like, yeah, I don't think Dreamcatcher is like that loathsome. It's not great, but I don't want to watch it again.
The dude poops out little aliens in the toilet. Like,
dude,
Bob, you just gave a 3.5 to Blood Diner.
You know
Jesus
what?
Christ.
Let's do a full review of Dreamcatcher and get to the bottom of it.
Why don't we have?
I would probably give it more than the 0.5 I gave today.
Tell you what, Cole, if you want to set us straight, or if somebody wants to set us straight, keep an eye out for that You Pick tier when it opens up again.
God,
make us pay for our insolence.
Thanks for calling in, Cole, man. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's good to hear from you, dude.
Next up, we will hear from Matthew. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hello, gentlemen and lady mangs. This is Matt from Jacksonville. I'm calling in to talk about what we did when our local Blockbuster closed. I wasn't a dirty thief and stole anything, but they did have all the DVD spacers and the cardboard logos that let you know that they owned the DVD, but it wasn't in at the moment. Our local Blockbuster was selling all of those for like 5 cents a piece, and I think I dropped $20 or $25 and just bought a shit ton of them. And I've been using them as postcards for over 10 years now, and it's pretty badass, especially if you know someone really likes a certain movie or actress or something. You can hit them up with a postcard
or hates.
But yeah, that's pretty cool. And I have also been watching Lovecraft Country on HBO Max, and if y'all haven't seen it, y'all should definitely check it out. It's a period piece in the 50s, and it deals with a lot of Lovecraft horror. Anyway, have a good show, and keep up the good work. Awesome. Bye.
Fascinating call.
Nice. Okay, so shouts outs to Matt. We all got one of those postcards. A different movie.
Yeah.
Mine was Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Mine was Rob Zombie's Halloween 1.
Yeah. Randy,
mine was I got the M. Night Shyamalan produced banger, Devil.
Nice.
Which I have not seen, but I have heard many compare it to a rotting dog shit turd.
Oh, no. Also, in that was a hidden message that I would not have picked up on. If you're ever in trouble, do not leave Soju a hidden message.
Do not leave a series of clues for Soju. He will not follow your series of clues.
You are in trouble if you need me as a lifeline.
It's like the end of that Serpico episode of Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie leaves a recording outside of City Hall, and immediately after he walks away, a janitor comes up and sweeps it into the dustbin.
Matt sent all of us like our own little postcards, and he numbered them 1 through 3. And on those 3 postcards, he highlighted certain letters in a different color ink so that they would form 3 different words on those 3 different postcards. And when you put them in sequence, it said, please
drink your Ovaltine.
It said, drink your Ovaltine. It said, please help me. And it was like, when we all got him, we're like, is Matt dead? Like, is somebody killing Matt? Like, do we have to go save Matt? What's happening? But it was just like an interesting goof that he did, and we really appreciate like the engagement, and thank God Matt's fine. Like, nobody has to worry about Matt. He's totally fine.
And see, here's my dumbass thinking that what I got in the mail, he had written a postcard on the back of like some card that entitled me to a free rental of Devil. I'm glad I wasn't spending hours trying to watch that fucking movie with that fucking card.
I didn't know what it was either when he sent it to me. I just like was Rob Zombie's Halloween. Okay, nice troll, buddy. Nice troll. But then as soon as he called in and explained it, I like remembered seeing those like around Blockbuster, and I was like, oh, that's really neat. It's like an artifact of fucking fucking Blockbuster.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And-
That's
yeah,
a good
I love
idea to use as a postcard.
Yeah, super cool idea. Thanks for engaging.
Clearly,
with
he's
us.
running low on good movies, though. So.
Yeah, he's trolling. What? Trolling.
Well, la-dee-da.
Et cetera. Yeah, thanks for calling in, Matt. Thanks for fucking us up real hard in the Slack channel because everybody was on that like, oh my god, Matt's dead, but no, he's fine. Everything's fine.
Bring
Called
your.
it out. I was like, oh shit, yeah, there are some different letters on here.
I think G Baby. Well,
Was it?
It might have been like both of them.
Maybe.
I know G Baby was like screen capping.
It was
shit.
the cocktail.
Yeah.
It was the cocktail.
Okay.
It's the cock tease is what
It might have even been Wes. Who knows? But the whole thing is like, it's if you need to have some basic. If you need to leave a trail of clues, send it to the Slack channel because we're too stupid.
Because
we're too stupid for
collectively,
this.
we'll figure it out. But if you leave it to the three of us, you're dead. You're dead.
You are a dead person.
Yep, you're dead. Sorry.
All right, let's get to this next voicemail.
Yeah, next up, we're gonna hear from Brandon. What's up, B?
Hey crew, it's Brandon, Beach Trooper on the Slack. I'm just calling in for your prompt about the horror haunted house. Never mind, not horror, haunted house. Rooms that we would design. Naderade, that spider room would fuck me up. No thank you. That would get me 100%. I had an idea for one. I had an experience in a room a while ago where it was all checkers, and there was a person in a checkered bodysuit, and then the light would turn off and then turn on, and then they would be in a different spot because they were in a checkered bodysuit. You couldn't really see them, and then by the time you noticed where they were, the lights would turn off and then they would turn back on. It scared the shit out of me to the point that this guy did it. The light went out, all of a sudden I heard moving, and the light went on, and like right in my face, literally like a foot away from me. And just like reactionary, I swung a punch at the guy. And I felt so bad, but at that point I was like, well, sorry dude, it's fight or flight. So we got kicked out for that, which is understandable, but funny story. So I would probably do a room like that in the sense of I would have a room with like maybe a strobe light on like a 2-second, 3-second timer, and then just have the room be sort of disorienting with the colors, and then maybe have someone in it where you come into the room and you see the exit door, but then you also see this person, and then boom, the lights go out, and then 2 seconds later the lights come on, but the exit door is in a different spot and that person's in a different spot. And have like sliding panels that you can like quickly slide over where the exit door was, and then there's a fake one, and then do that a few times, and then have it turn on, person run at you, and then you have like the exit door is there and you have to run out or something like that. I feel like that would for sure scare me. So I don't know about you guys, but yeah. Anyways, great hearing other people call in. Narrate logo. It was awesome hearing you guys call in. It's awesome hearing people calling from the Slack. Cool to hear someone's voice that you've been chatting with online. So, yeah, anyways, keep showing boys. It's a pleasure. Zippity zappity.
Zippity zappity indeed.
That was for you.
Why does Randy say zippity zappity once and then everybody's just down with it? Like,
look, man, if you've got
Rob,
a zippity, you can't zap it.
Have a cool catchphrase,
man,
okay?
Look.
You know, I'm feeling sorry.
What are you talking about, dude?
Feeling sorry for myself. That's
Rob definitely has a cool catchphrase.
I have a daddy kink. That's call in and just say that you have a daddy kink, so that we can record it for all of
it
eternity.
Will never be used against you. Yes, it will.
Yeah, that's totally safe to do.
By the way, I want to point this out, man. That's a fucking great scare room idea.
Yeah, that is really smart.
Brilliant. And it's like he figured out how it's done too, which, you know, I was struggling to understand the checkerboard room a little bit, but like what he described for his own idea was great. So good job, Brandon. I love that. I would love to go on a scare room like that.
Yeah, nice.
Solid. I also love that like Slack channel people are like gassing each other up and like encouraging one another to like call in and engage on the Hotline Scream. Like all about
Gas them up.
All about that. Really, really loving it.
Now we just need an on-the-phone feud and have somebody call in and say, like,
Are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
that's the drama angle we're missing.
It's a matter of time. That's apparently what we need.
The Slack is strong.
Yeah, it has been popping.
They're hard with each other
off.
now. It's great.
Yeah, if you're not on Slack, you're missing out.
You're fucking up. You're fucking up, son. Or daughter, whatever you prefer.
Mangs.
Mang.
Womang.
Inclusive. It's an inclusive Slack.
How many times do I have to say womangs before people catch on? It's not
apparently more times than Randy has to say zippity zappity.
It's not lady mangs.
Look, the important thing to remember is zippity zappity. So let's move forward.
Yeah, everybody has somehow remembered that. Okay. Last but not least, we're going to hear from our baby, our G baby. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yo, what's up, crew? G baby calling in to say, first and foremost, shout out to Heidelberg for hooking it up with this. You picked the flick for Blood Diner. Hope it doesn't disappoint. It's pretty damn wacky. Felt like it might make for a fun cast. Yeah, it reminds me kind of like UHF mixed with like Society, kind of. It's just it's funky. But the call-in prompt from Naderade, I think it was Nate Dogg, was pretty dope about what would your haunted house be. My first gut reaction was like kind of like Corn Maze, but like do a haunted house, but do it outside in like a forest setting and make it crazy, like occult, like witch shit, like Blair Witch, like have it shit up in certain sections and like, you know, like somebody playing a creepy witch peeking out behind trees off in the distance, people screaming out like Josh from the Blair Witch when she's tricking them, or have like, you know, a couple kids running around with like a goat singing Black Phillip, Black Phillip. That'd be dope. That'd be my idea. I'd make a couple custom rooms for the SC team. So Soju have a room with just an elevator with blood pouring out of it, like from The Shining. Bob would be have a dude dressed as Tooth Man from Channel Zero performing orthodontia on someone. And then last but not least, Randy, you'd have your own custom room where people are waxing philosophic about the cultural or artistic merit of underworld blood wars. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty frightening for you fellas. Anyway, hope you guys like Blood Diner. Looking forward to the cast. Keep chilling, crew. Hell yeet, hell skeet, and yabba dabba, whatever that is for Randy. There, guys.
I love that I'm become an amalgam with fucking Fred Flintstone somehow as well.
I will say the idea of a horror hike, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like a Blair Witch horror hike or horror camping or something. That's cool.
I think there might be something like that because I know that at least at Halloween Horror Nights one year where they did both parks in Orlando, Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios, they had a corn maze between the two that's somewhat legendary. That, you know, basically was the way of transmissing between the two parks, and you had to walk through like a literal fucking corn maze where people were like chainsawing and shit.
That's
and
cool.
It's got legendary status, from what I understand, of being pretty goddamn terrifying.
Can I get a yabba dabba skeet, please?
No.
I mean, you can lay one down if you like.
Yabba dabba skeet! It was worth a shot.
Right.
Yeah, I love like the general concept of like a corn maze or like just like a, I don't know, just being lost like in the woods in general. But like, I don't know, corn maze is like a little bit more like Midwestern, like USA. So it hits a little bit harder in the feels. Like Children of the Corn doesn't like totally lean into it as well as I wish it would, but like the idea of it is fucking cool. And sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great plan.
Also, I want to give shouts outs real quick. We meant, we meant to mention this before, but G Baby brought it back to our attention.
True.
Shouts outs to Heidelberg.
Yeah, man.
Again, Heidelberg won, I would say, one thing I want to point out. Hydraberg has got a you pick the flick every
time.
Single time. Every time. Like we've even, it's kind of sad because we just started limiting it where you can only get 2 a year just to kind of open it up more. And
breaking the streak.
It's going to break Hydraberg's streak, but officially like he has gotten every single one. And he talking about how strong the Slack is. He donated to G-Baby this time. G-Baby's had a hard time out on that West Coast scoring one, so it was donated by Hydraberg. So shouts out to him for that. That's really dope.
So we're really just burying the West Coast, East Coast acts once and for all.
We are for sure, but like also this is Hydraberg's second pick for the year. So like Hydraberg got it and was like, "This is my last pick I can ever get for the year," and still gave it to his buddy.
Yeah.
Like that's insanely cool, man. And thank you for being that generous. I'm sure G-Baby appreciated it. Like hopefully we didn't crucify this movie too fucking hard.
Well,
you know,
G-Baby knows how we feel.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I get his correlation, UHF and society. Like, I get that. It's just not the comedy wasn't landing for me the way it does with UHF because UHF is harmless. You know, like it seeks to do no harm, like a fucking Hippocratic fucking movie.
For sure. It seeks to do no harm, much like our Slack channel. Everybody has everybody's back, and it's fucking amazing and really, really cool. And it's the most like. It's the coolest thing that's come out of this podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely something like that has happened happenstance. Like, you know, we wanted it to happen and it just kind of did. Like,
yeah.
So,
and to honor the good deed a little bit, just a little tease. I'm gonna tease you, Scotch.
Tease me.
But old Hydraberg, he might be having his own cast coming out soon that we'll be talking about a little more.
Would it potentially be featuring some other friends of the show?
Potentially, maybe the Slack childrens are growing up. You know,
this podcast is multiplying like a fucking set of rabbits. It's nuts.
Yeah,
and
nuts.
We are the string pullers. Ha ha.
We are the overlords. We're the Soros of this particular band of Antifas.
We're spreading the Cooter label far and wide.
We're the rabbits that are just fucking.
Yeah.
Sure, Bob. Sure. 3.5
that sounds like a hot Friday night.
Oh, man. But yeah,
Sure.
Thanks for donating your pick, Hydraberg. Super, super thoughtful of you and G-Baby. Hopefully enjoy the show, man. Thanks for calling in. It's always good to hear from you regardless. Also, I can't remember like if I mentioned this at all on the past episode or two, but I need to mention it now. I should have mentioned this in housekeeping, so apologies. It just came to me. Joe Bob Briggs is coming back to Shudder. Season 3 is happening this Friday. So if you are interested in watching that, we're going to be hosting a live watch of Season 3, Episode 1 of The Last Drive-In. We're going to post a link to join us on the fucking... what do we do?
This is...
Yeah! On Zoom?
Zoom?
Be prepared to be bedazzled.
That's what we're doing. Zoom.
I don't know what you're fucking talking about.
We use Zoom. Yeah, we use Zoom. So if you want to hang out with us on Zoom, we're going to post a link to join.
Shift H. It's a good shortcut to know.
I don't know what that is.
Hides all the screen elements.
What is happening?
And we'll go ahead and put the start point at the bottom, end point towards the end. And we'll just start animating this thing. So here is the way this works. What you want to do is put the saber core over the saber in the shot.
Hear is crazy porn.
We'll turn up the size.
Randy.
Now there is a control setting for the roundness, so if you want to.
Okay.
Oh, man. Randy is having some alpha. God, I wish that was like the raunchiest, fucked up porn.
We got some technical difficulties. If you want to hang out and watch Joe Bob, hit us up on Zoom this Friday. We're going to be doing a group watch, as always. We'll be back next week with a new episode. We're going to be talking about the winner of the poll pick for this month, which was the Wicker Man. The original Wicker Man. Randy!
We're back.
The saber. So here's the forward side. Let's move.
What is with it?
What the fuck is happening? The Ghost in the Machine.
The saber. The saber. What?
Now mount your saber.
You gotta mount that there saber, Randy. Oh,
go ahead
okay.
And mount it.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Mounted.
Yeah. We're gonna be back next week. We're talking about the Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man from 1973, which was the winner of the poll pick. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Hit us up on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. We're on Twitter at STR8_chilling. You can send an email to our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, just let me know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the daily conversations. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.